Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto has god-level power in Inuyasha. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Zenitonian Warrior 37 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, Awakening of a Daiyukai. In Konohagake no Sado, deep inside a forest that has a bloody history for the shinobi of Konoha, of being a place where abnormal animals, insects and possibly even minor demons make their residence. Genin hopefuls from all across the elemental nations were being pitted against each other in a competition of cunning, skill, and survival for a chance or being promoted through the ranks, not to mention bring honor and prestige to their home village in the biannual Chunin exams. All of the other villages, including a reluctant Kumo, had sent Genin teams to compete. There were even smaller shinobi villages such as Kusa, Hoshi, Aim, Yuki, and a new village by the name of Oto that sent the best of their genin to bring honor to their villages as well. Because Konoha was playing host to the exams this year, they too had genin teams eagerly trying to prove their mettle and hopefully get a promotion to Chunin rank. One such team was the genin cell of Squad 7. Haruno Sakura, who was named Kunoichi of the Year at the academy, Uchiha Sasuke, the Rookie of the Year in this year's graduating class and one of 2 survivors of the grisly-fabled Uchiha massacre, and Uzumaki Naruto, the known dead last at the academy, and the Jinchuriki of the famed Kitsune Kyubi no Yoko found themselves facing an opponent that was their toughest to date, following their disastrous C-rank mission to Nami no Kuni, so the Kyubigaki has learned to access his tenant's chakra. Well, I can't have that, he could become detrimental to my plans if left alone. Well, I'll fix that. This moment. A female Kusanine mused as she held Naruto airborne with her extremely long tongue and made hand signs as her target struggled. Let me go, team, or I'll rip your tongue from your skull. The 12-year blonde threatened as he thrashed to get free while the Kyubi's chakra flooded his system right this moment. Don't worry, I'll release you soon enough, after I've made sure you're out of the picture. Gobyufuin 5, Element Seal. The woman chuckled as her fingers lit up with a bluish flame before she thrust them into the seal on Naruto's stomach. Ah! Naruto gasped as he felt his chakra begin to fade away as pain like he never felt before racked every inch of his body with unrelenting force. Soon enough he couldn't hold out, and gave way to the sweet embrace of darkness. Within Naruto's seal just moments before, the Kyubi sat behind its cage with murderous rage at being stuck within such a weak jailer, and the Yondaime Hokage for being the one to put it here. As she huffed in annoyance at watching those same bars again, everything went completely black. Well, this is a surprise. I can't feed the pitiful ninja any more chakra. The Kyubi mumbled as it shifted to lay better as suddenly it was becoming very sleepy very fast. That Gaki better live. I enjoy living too much even if it's inside this damned seal. Those were the last thoughts as Kyubi gave into the exhaustion. Back outside the seal. Now then we can move on to the festivities, Sasuke? The Kusanine smirked as she tossed Naruto off into the trees while Sasuke and Sakura watched without doing a thing. Sasuke, you just going to stand there? At least Naruto did something to fight that woman. Sure, he's annoying, but he tried to get our scroll back, Sakura yelled to her raven-haired teammate, and Crush as he stood trembling so much it was visible on his whole body. Sakura doesn't know what she's talking about. This woman is in another league. It's obvious that we won't live. We can't get away, we can't, Sasuke thought with a mind filled with absolute terror at his death just seconds away while Sakura continued trying to reach him with her voice as his opponent stalked closer with the grace of a predator. Foolish Oturo, ruckling to life, continue living in shame for my sake. Sasuke's thoughts soon turned to the man he swore to kill, his clan's slayer, Uchiha Itachi and his Aniki. His eyes snapped open with a fire for survival as his clan's Kekkai Genkai was displayed for all to see as his Sharingan gained another Tomi to bring the number to an even 2 in each eye. That's right. I have no intention of dying, not while that man still breathes. For the honor of my clan I swore to kill Itachi, but that won't happen if I lose here, Sasuke proclaimed to himself as he turned his battle-ready gaze at the Kusanine and rushed forward. Good, his clan blood has ignited. Let's put him to the test. The Kusa Kunoichi mused with a lopsided smile that seemed amused as she slid into a simple defensive stance as Sasuke rocketed at her. Kusanine just smirked with glee as Sasuke rushed to greet her in combat. Sasuke threw a leading jab that was easily sidestepped before a rising knee had him jumping back to create some distance only to find the Kusanine already in his face attacking, with a flurry of attacks which he countered or outright dodged before launching attacks of his own. My Sharingan has improved dramatically. I can see all your movements, Sasuke thought with confidence as he tracked his opponent through the area as she moved with enhanced speed, before Sasuke spewed a brief stream of fire in her path. Soon they were engaged in taijutsu again and Sasuke's movements became more precise as he wasted no energy on attacks that wouldn't work as he read his opponent with his clan Dijutsu. The Kusa Kunoichi then jumped back, raised her hands to her mouth and blew Kitan, Senpu no Kokuyo, grass release, whirlwind of cutting leaves. As the jutsu took effect a swarm of wind-infused leaves flew at the Uchiha air. Katan, Hozenka no Jutsu, fire release, mythical phoenix fire technique, Sasuke called as he countered the move by shooting small fireballs at the leaves which reduced them to ash. The fireballs continued on towards the Kunoichi, but she dodged them only to have the fireballs swerve to keep following her. What are you planning, Sasuke-kun? The woman thought as she decided to see where Sasuke would take this lead in the battle of theirs. Sasuke didn't disappoint as he led the woman to a rather large tree. The kunoichi prepared to dodge, but the fireballs changed direction at the last minute to fly past her position. This is the Sharingan Safusha Sanitachi, Sharingan Windmill Triple Blade. The kunoichi barely managed to get out as Sasuke began to launch an insane number of shuriken, attached to wire at her which wrapped around the tree. Sasuke continued to toss weapons until he was sure his opponent wasn't escaping as he pulled his end of the wires towards his mouth. Now to finish this. Katan, Ryuka no Jutsu, Fire Release, Dragon Flame, Sasuke said as he gathered as much chakra as he could and unleashed a powerful torrent of flame that traveled along all the wires towards the bound kunoichi who struggled to get loose to no avail. All she could do was scream in agony as the flame jutsu consumed her body completely. Sasuke bent over to clutch his knees as he caught his breath from using so much chakra for his last attack. It's over now, and I'm one step closer to beating you, Itachi. Sasuke though as he looked over at his work to see the fire still burning strong. Way to go, Sasuke-kun. I knew you could beat her, there was no doubt about it. Sakura cheered from her perch in the tree line as she decided that her input would be appreciated to score points with Sasuke. Perhaps I was wrong, Sasuke, you don't have the same talent as Itachi. He would have at least made me feel the heat from the flames. A sickly sweet voice called out from behind Sasuke which had his eyes widening in disbelief and fear. How? You were trapped against the tree. There was too much wire for you to escape. Sasuke managed to get out as he spun around and jumped away to give himself some distance as he stared at a completely unharmed Kusanine. Maybe you should take a look at that tree again where I supposedly couldn't escape. I'll wait while you look. The Kusanine replied with a chuckle and a smile that just screamed utter terror to Sasuke. Up in the tree line, Sakura was having a full-blown panic attack at what she was seeing with her eyes. How is she alive? Sasuke's jutsu was dead on. There's no way she could survive that attack. She was close to breaking down with what she was witnessing with her crush on the edge of defeat. Sasuke did as the Kusanine suggested, although hesitantly as he was afraid of being attacked. He turned to the tree he attacked just moments ago, and see the last of his flames die away to reveal a charred corpse. His eyes narrowed a bit as he focused on the body fully, only for the corpse to twitch slightly before collapsing in on itself to reveal a heap of mud. Since you're having trouble understanding, I will explain it to you. From the moment you countered my Kitan, Senpu no Kokuyo, grass release, whirlwind of cutting leaves, up until you pulled those wires, thought I was really there, but then I decided to Kawarami, substitute myself with a Tsuchi Bunshin, earth clone. The rest I'm sure I don't need to say. The Kusanine explained with a snug look as Sasuke brought his gaze back to her. Sasuke just listened the entire time with a look of desperation on his face, as she explained how she got out of his attack. So Sasuke-kun, shall we resume our little game? I'm going to step it up a notch, try not to die too quickly, okay? The kunoichi said as she cocked her head slightly to the side while pulling out a kunai. Sasuke just grabbed a kunai from his own holster while trying to catch his second wind to continue fighting. He didn't get much time as he watched the Kusanine eat up the distance with his Sharingan. Punches, kicks, and slashes from the kunai in each shinobi's hand was either blocked or dodged by the other. Sasuke held his own barely as he managed to block and counter whatever attacks came his way. However, his opponent was too skilled for him to land any attacks as he was slowly being pushed back by his opponent. Come on, Sasuke, don't tell me that's all you've got left. The Kusanine taunted as she strung together combinations that Sasuke was barely able to dodge thanks to his Kekkei Genkai. Sasuke silently prayed for an opening to strike when he spotted one. Quickly he wove inside an off-thrown slash and gave his opponent a vicious back fist to the stomach, followed by an uppercut that had her falling back, until she went with a hit and rolled low into a sweep kick that knocked Sasuke off balance, as she then finished up with a rising cartwheel kick that sent him flying into a nearby tree. Sasuke slammed into the tree with enough force to rattle his entire body as he then hit the ground. He struggled to compose himself as he slowly got to his feet while looking at his opponent through a fatigued red and black gaze. Well, that was entertaining. Maybe you truly are worthy of your clan's name, Sasuke. Allow me to give you a token of my appreciation, the Kusanine said with a smile as her neck stretched before Sasuke could react and sank her fangs into his collarbone, causing him to scream out in pain as a tattoo began to form where he was bitten. Agrugurg. What have you done? Sasuke groaned out as his neck began to flare out of intense pain, and he felt his energy completely leave him in a flash, meaning that Sasuke was weak as a newborn child. Sasuke! What did you do to him? Sakura cried out as she leapt to his side after seeing her crushed down by whatever the woman did to him. Kukukuka. I've just given Sasuke a gift to help him achieve his goals if he survives the rest of these exams. Sasuke-kun, I look forward to monitoring your progress, and just so you don't forget, my name is Orochimaru. Farewell for now. The Kusanine replied as she slowly seemed to sink into the earth itself, leaving the area quiet save for Sasuke's groans of pain before he passed out as well. Sasuke-kun! Don't worry, I'll get you somewhere safe. Sakura gasped as Sasuke fell into her lap, and she looked around for what felt like an eternity before getting up and carrying, half-dragging Sasuke's unconscious form with her. For a moment she stopped when she remembered her other teammate and the fact that he was tossed somewhere into the forest. Naruto, what can I do? I can't leave him behind or we can't pass the second exam, but Sasuke-kun needs me. Sakura thought as she gripped Sasuke tighter. Then another voice in her head popped in with its own opinion. Cha, just leave that dead last. It was his own fault for getting in the way of Sasuke-kun and me. He's better off where he is. All that matters in Sasuke-kun and getting him somewhere safe. Inner Sakura shouted in a love-struck rant, to which Sakura wholeheartedly agreed. You're right, that baka can fend for himself. I know Sasuke-kun can find us 2 scrolls and a way to pass without the dobe, Sakura said, agreeing with her inner self as she dragged the Uchiha heir along to find shelter. Little did she know that Naruto wouldn't be the same after today. Hours later, as the sun was giving way to the night, Sakura managed to find a large tree with a hollow base to lay Sasuke in and set up traps around the area before tending to the young Uchiha boy with the most care. Sasuke-kun's fever is going down, that's good. I'll have to keep watch and keep an eye on him. Hopefully we aren't attacked. Sasuke-kun and I will have to look for Naruto when he's better, then somehow get a scroll. We've only got 2 more days to complete this portion of the exam, Sakura thought tiredly as she changed the cool cloth on Sasuke's forehead. But her though of not being attacked will go unanswered, as the genin team from Oto was not that far away watching the tree with hawk-like focus. When do we attack Uchiha Sasuke? Asked one fidgety and excited male. He had on a brown shirt with black pants, camo arm warmers and black sandals. This boy wore a head wrap that doubled as his hiyate. Calm down, Zaku. We'll strike when the girl drops her guard to sleep. Until then we will have to be patient, replied the second male on the team. This one had on a gray yakuta that was large in the sleeves as it covered his arms. His head was covered in bandages, his hiyate was slanted but left one eye uncovered so he could see. On his back was a large fur-like covering. She don't look like much. Probably spends more time primping herself than training. I agree with Zaku, the female of the watching team says in barely hidden disgust at Sakura tend to Sasuke faithfully. She wore a black shirt with camo pants and arm warmers. She wore a normal hiyate unlike the other 2. I don't want to wait, Dosu. We can take care of them right now. Zaku all but shouted as he watched the tree with an insane glee in his eyes. Geez, Zaku, why not alert everyone to our position? The girl replied, looking over to her brash teammate Zaku. Shut it, kin, or I'll make you next on my shit list. Zaku growled as he turned to look at his female teammate, and waved his hand in a threatening manner. Zaku, kin, that's enough. Be prepared cause we attack at first light. Dosu butted in, ending the argument. They both mumble out agreements as they went back to watching Sakura and Sasuke, waiting for the moment to make their move as they wait for the morning to come so they can complete their objective. Just outside the Forest of Death, a lone kunoichi sat on top of the small examiner's booth while enjoying dango and red bean soup. She wore a tan miniskirt with a fishnet body shirt with nothing else but a tan trench coat over her torso. Her purple hair was done up in a small pineapple-shaped ponytail, and her lightly purple to amber eyes were closed in delight as she enjoyed her meal. This kunoichi was none other than Mitarashi Enko, a Tokubetsu jounin for Konoha and the ex-apprentice of Orochimaru, one of the Sannin. His crimes against the Leaf have put her career and reputation in an unfavorable light with Konoha's citizens and her fellow shinobi. This is of course for another time, as a Chunin examiner landed nearby in a crouch. Proctor Mitarashi, we have a situation, the Chunin said with slight hesitation at being the one to deliver bad news to Enko given her temperament. What is it? I'm having my lunch, as you can see, Enko asked as her demeanor changed to one of annoyance at having her meal disrupted. It has to do with one of the genin teams here for the exam. All right, lead the way, Enko replied as she tossed the empty dango skewer at a tree where the rest were completing the symbol of the Leaf Village, then jumped down. With a burst of chakra, both shinobi disappeared from the area via the Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique. A couple of miles away they materialized in front of a waiting group with a burst of smoke to cover their position. All right, where's the team? Enko asked, getting the attention of the group of Chunin as she approached where they stood. Over here, Enko-san, we have determined that it's one of the 3 Kusugakure teams. The weird thing is that a lead Chunin started while looking towards the bodies. Their faces are missing completely. Can you tell me how long they've been like this before you discovered them? Enko finished as she crouched to get a better look at the victims. After looking over the clipboard with the IDs of the deceased shinobi, from what we estimate this team has been like this, from when you started the second part of the exam, 6 hours. Another Chunin replied as he looked over Enko's shoulder at the bodies before pulling back from the site. There's no doubt about it, this is his work, Orochimaru. So he's returned to the Leaf after 17 long years of hiding, but what would he be doing that he would risk capture to get back in? Doesn't matter, I can finally kill that traitorous bastard and hopefully put my dark past to rest, Enko thought to herself as her old mentor sprung to mind, causing her to clench her hands so hard they began to bleed from the pressure. What should we do, Enko-san? I want you to alert the Umbu and inform the Hokage of this situation. I'm going into the forest to try and find whoever did this. Perhaps some of us should come with you as backup, a rookie Chunin suggested as Enko started for the forest. There isn't time to debate this, you all have your orders. Now get to it, Enko all but shouted as she looked back at the group with her hardened gaze. Yes, ma'am. The entire group shouted as they took off to complete their objective, leaving Enko alone. Orochimaru, your last day on this earth has come at last, Enko though, as she took off in a shunshin that put her inside the forest as she began to track her old mentor. Another section of the Forest of Death during the night. Naruto lay unconscious on the forest floor thanks to the attack on his squad not too long ago. It's strange though, in a forest just brimming with all sorts of predator-like creatures, one would think that this blonde 12-year-old could become the target of some creature's empty belly. However, the reason that they didn't make a move against him was because of the overwhelming energy filling the air around him. Yet none of it was coming from Naruto's navel, as his tenant's chakra was just sealed off not long ago. No, the source of the powerful force was radiating from the boy himself, with the only physical indication of anything happening was the energy jumping off his skin in the form of little forks of purple to black lightning. Deep inside of Naruto's subconscious, Naruto opened his eyes with a groan as he awoke to the feeling of grass on his back and the sounds of a peaceful waterfall. He sat up with little trouble and looked around. What he saw put him on edge. There was no way he was in the forest of death anymore. This place, wherever he was, had too much light, plus there wasn't the overwhelming sensation of being watched like some beast's meal. To top it all off, it was nighttime. "Hello, is there anyone there?" Naruto called out with an echo greeting him back as he got to his feet and looked around, as he didn't want to move from this spot and get lost and encounter who knows what in here. As Naruto looked around the trees for some way out, the sound of footsteps on the soft ground caught his heightened hearing and putting him on alert. Naruto reached for his kunai holster only to find it, and his clothes missing and himself completely naked. What is going on? I'm sure I had my weapons and clothes before I fought that crazy Kusanine. More importantly, why am I not freaked out by my lack of clothes? I can't think of that right now. I've got to remain alert to whatever is coming towards me, Naruto thought in his head as he slipped into a ready stance and waited for the unknown presence to emerge as the footsteps became even louder. He didn't have long to wait before a figure strolled into the clearing with a regal air about them. Clearly the person before Naruto was a man wearing the clothing of a noble. A white kimono with a red honeycomb pattern on the edges, with a large black breastplate connected to a spiked pauldron on the left, and what looked to be white fur on the right. Matching white sashinuki hakama were on his legs and his feet covered with pointed black boots. On the man's waist rested 3 different swords, which Naruto had no doubt were capable of being used against him. What really had Naruto on edge was the somehow familiar aura coming from this man before him. It was the face of the male. Markings on his face in the form of 2 purple streaks on each cheek reminded him of the Inuzuka clan, and a matching purple crescent moon atop his forehead, all framed by silver hair that fell towards his waist. The thing that sent shivers of unease up Naruto's spine were the golden orbs that stared at him too deeply, as if looking directly into his soul. If you can't guess who this is, you get to be taken out and beaten to an inch of your fanfiction life. For those that knew right away, you get 15 style points and an author cookie. Enjoy. After what seemed like an eternity of just staring at one another, the man vanishes from Naruto's sight. He looks about frantically for the figure, only to feel a vice-like grip around his neck as he was lifted from the ground and found himself looking into sharp golden orbs with his deep blue ones. "So you are my newest descendant. What is your name, boy?" The calm voice demanded with authority, as he simply awaited Naruto's answer after staring at the boy again. "You're looking at the next Hokage of Konoha, Uzumaki Naruto Databeo," Naruto answered with that huge grin of his as best he could, with the man's hand around his throat. Until he saw there was no humor in the man's composure at all, then his smile gradually faded into nothing. "I am Inu Teisho Sesshomaru and Demon Lord of the Western Lands, and as my descendant you will cease that foolish and detestable act now," the now self-proclaimed Sesshomaru commanded as he set Naruto down as his blue pools lost their warmth and became jagged as ice. "How did you guess I was faking? I've had everyone fooled for years now." A now calmer Naruto asked in a voice not unlike Sesshomaru's own. "Your eyes told me all I needed to know. That, and I have viewed your life as I held you by your neck. You have stayed strong, struggled, and survived despite what those pitiful ninjin threw at you. Listen up, as I will only instruct you once, and I will not tolerate repeating myself. Normally I would appear in front of a descendant when the maturity of their yukai ripens at age 15. Unfortunately for you, the stress plus damage of the years growing up and that one ningin's attack against you has jump-started your yukai power to correct what has been done. So the change is happening even as we speak. I give you free rein to wield 2 of my swords that you see here. Their names are Tensiga and Tokijin. The first blade, Tensiga, was an heirloom from my father and your ancestor. This sword has the ability to resurrect 100 souls with a single swing. However, your intended target can only be revived once by the sword's power, so use it sparingly. Also, there is a small time frame of a few hours in which your target can be revived by the sword until their soul passes from this plane of existence. And finally, this blade cannot bring someone back who has died naturally, and when used against you, enemies can open a path straight to the afterlife. The second sword, Tokijin, is a sword crafted from the fangs of a powerful demon that I had forged for my own use. It can conduct lightning attacks as well as respond to the yukai and chakra within your body. You will use these 2 blades until your yukai body matures and you manifest your own weapon," Sesshomaru explained to Naruto, who listened as he pulled out Tokijin and Tensiga respectively. "What of the third sword on your waist, Sesshomaru-sama?" Naruto asked as he eyed the last blade still resting against Sesshomaru's hip. "You are perceptive, child. This is Bakuseiga, and it is the testament of my power as a Daiyukai. You will not receive this sword, as there will be no need, as Tensiga and Tokijin will be enough. Seek out my resting place to the west where the sands of time shift endlessly. It is there you will find the weapons I offer you and whatever else can be of use in the tomb. As for anything else, I have passed along the knowledge of my abilities and strengths to you. I have 2 stipulations before I depart, and you awake. First, you will add inuyasha to your name in honor of our family's stead, and second, you are to never be defeated by any of your enemies as you now reflect my line. Do you agree to this? Sesshomaru continued explaining to Naruto as he replaced his swords to his hips. I agree to both terms, Naruto said with a nod of his head as he watched his ancestor turn to leave the clearing. Very well, child, but do not make me rethink my judgment of you, Sesshomaru replied after a period of silence in true Sesshomaru fashion as his way of saying goodbye while walking into the forest. I will raise our family's legacy once more. From this moment forth I will be known as Naruto Uzumaki Inuyasha, Naruto declared on the sudden night winds as a bright light filled the area until all that could be seen was whiteness before everything went black. In the unknown clearing with Naruto's body, Naruto awoke to find his every sense heightened beyond belief. He could hear, smell, and see like never before. After quickly getting used to his new senses, Naruto decided to find a body of water to wash in. Using his nose only, he was able to pick out a body of water not too far from where he sat. He got up and walked in the direction of his objective. As he moved out towards the water, 3 small patches of ground rippled like liquid as it gave way to one of the genin teams from IWA. We should capture this guy and have him lead us back to his team, in case he doesn't have the scroll, one of the 2 males on the squad whispered as they looked in the direction Naruto walked off in. Why not? If he doesn't have the scroll and refuses to cooperate, we can always leave a fresh corpse behind. The lone female chuckled with obvious control of the team as they leapt into the trees after their target. Oh man, I can't wait to stick it to this Konoha. The last member of the team mumbled as they all picked up speed while suppressing their chakra. After walking for a bit, Naruto found the body of water, a stream that ran naturally through the forest. He bent down to the water's edge to look at his changes and he wasn't disappointed. Naruto looked like his ancestor for the most part at age 12 but kept his own blue eyes instead of having gold ones, where his 3 whisker marks usually rested. 3 purple stripes took their place and a matched purple crescent moon sat on his forehead. As he lifted his shirt to examine where that Kusanine attacked him, he found the same stripes flowing down and stopping around his waist. Just as Naruto let the now barely fitting orange jacket drop back around his waist, he tilted his head a few centimeters to the right to avoid the kunai that made contact with the stream as a loud splash. Why don't you fools reveal yourselves? I've known you were following me from the beginning, Naruto warned from his position as he demanded his attackers show themselves. The team from IWA had no problem rising up from the ground in a stance a few feet away from their target. Look, clearly you're at a disadvantage here, so why don't you hand over your team's scroll? If you don't have it, then we will make you show us where your team is positioned and we can take it from them, the female of the group demanded as Naruto turned his head to the side to glance at the fools daring to challenge him. Why would I do that, foolish Nigen? I don't have a scroll for you to take, not that you could even if I had one. Begone, pests, Naruto replied as he turned back to the stream to cleanse his body of dirt. Bastard. Take this, Doton, Doryuden, Earth Release, Mud Dragon. One of the 2 boys growled as he blurred through hand signs and slammed his hands on the ground. Naruto watched impassively as the Mud Dragon rose from the earth and shot mud projectiles at him. The attack closed the distance quickly and slammed into the ground, creating a lot of dust as it broke up more rock and dirt in an effort to crush Naruto into nothing. After about a minute, the genin rose up from the ground with a huge grin. Nice going, Kazuhiko, you just cost us a free scroll with your bullshit, the other boy complained as he slapped his teammate upside the head. Fuck you, Teiko, there are other teams. Besides, the fool was all talk, but when it came down to it he was obliterated by me. Kazuhiko scowled before boasting with a smile as they waited for the dust to settle so they could see the body. When the dust did settle, all that was left was the deep gouge that let water from the stream to pool in it. However, their opponent stood a few feet to the right looking completely unharmed. The hell? There's no way you were able to dodge my attack, it was dead on, Kazuhiko exclaimed while shifting his gaze to his 2 teammates who just nodded in agreement. Or maybe your aim was so pathetic, you believed that you hit me. Leave, fool, and take your team with you before I remove you all from this world, Naruto replied while dismissing the entire IWA team in one breath. What? How dare you? Let's kill this genin all together, Teiko, Mamarii, Kazuhiko all but shouted in rage as he nearly foamed at the fact of being ignored by the orange-wearing nin. His teammates gave their okays as they all flew through hand signs at the same time. Doton, Doryuden, Kazuhiko yelled as another dragon erupted in front of him with its mouth open wide. Doton, Mako Danchuku, Earth Release, Shark Impact. Teiko called out as a shark made of earth and mud leapt from the ground as well and swam through the air at Sesshomaru. Doton, Nadar no Jutsu, Earth Release, Avalanche. Mamarii called as she slammed her hands on the ground and a huge chunk of earth popped up, then she swung her arms forward and the chunk of rock moved towards their opponent. Try dodging our strongest attacks combined, tough guy, Kazuhiko challenged as all 3 jutsu crashed into the ground where Naruto was standing with such force that the areas itself shook with ferocity as the 3 jutsu exploded on contact with one another. When the dust settled from that attack, the IWA team stopped to admire their handiwork at dispatching a Konoha genin. Damn, that felt good, Teiko said as he exchanged a high five with Mamarii. Yeah, I bet that Konoha team is wishing he hadn't fucked with us now that he's dead. Ha, there isn't even a body, we creamed him so good. Kazuhiko cackled with a lopsided grin. Who says I'm dead? Came a voice from right behind the 3 IWA genin, They tried to turn and react, but all any of them saw was a flash of light and knew no more. Naruto just watched impassively as his whip of light took the heads of all three Iwanin's heads from their shoulders with ease. Slowly, one by one, the bodies slumped to the floor with the heads of the horror-stricken faces laying nearby. "Pitiful Nigen, the Shinigami holds your souls now," Sesshomaru muttered with a small sneer as he began to travel downstream a bit after looting the bodies and finding an earth scroll. Of course, the forest's natural inhabitants would soon be all over the fresh kills he just made when he left the area. Stripping down, Naruto cleansed his body of dirt from the 2 battles he just had as well as any blood. Not that it would matter, seeing as the Kyuubi in his navel would take care of any injury that his demonic regeneration didn't catch. After ensuring he was thoroughly clean, Sesshomaru got dressed and decided that he'd rather wait to reveal his change for the time being, and used his chakra to perform a Bunshin, true clone, which he found he could do when he performed his Oiroku no Jutsu, sexy jutsu, when he was younger, and created the look that he had before his transformation. "Now to find those 2 I'm forced to call teammates," Naruto said as he let his new sense of smell lead him towards his team's position. Enko stumbled through the forest even as her body still shook with small tremors of pain from having her curse mark activated by her one-time teacher. She was mentally kicking herself for getting so wrapped up in trying to kill Orochimaru that she forgot one of the most important lessons of combat. Never let your emotions get the best of you, for your enemy will turn them to their advantage. Enko was more concerned than anything with what Orochimaru revealed to her in the Forest of Death. Flashback Fuin. Enko had caught up to Orochimaru and after exchanging a few words attempted to take the man down in a suicide maneuver, only to be overpowered and systematically tortured. Now she gritted her teeth in pain at the kunai that was lodged in her hand and pinning her to the tree behind her as Orochimaru stood a few feet away with that snake-like smile on his face. "What are you doing back here, Orochimaru?" Enko demanded with barely contained rage while Orochimaru just grinned even wider, kicking her anger higher. "Why, I'm here doing a little scouting is all. There is so much potential that surfaces during these exams, so many promising genin like Uchiha Sasuke. What are you planning to do with him? Answer me, damn it!" Enko yelled when he said nothing. "Poor Enko, jealous that another will take your special place in my heart?" Orochimaru asked as he closed the gap between them and began to caress her cheek with his hand. "I don't want a special place in your oily black heart, you can keep it," Enko replied as she tried to keep her shudder of disgust off her face at having the snake Sannin touch her. "If you must know, it's not what I'm planning to do to him, it's what I've already done. Young Sasuke now bears my Jun Furin, curse seal, and if he survives the taste of power the mark will grant him, Sasuke will seek me in the future to obtain what he truly desires." Orochimaru whispered in Enko's ear with glee as he leaned next to her. Enko could only let her eyes widen in horror at the memory of when he applied the curse seal to her all those years ago. She remembered the pain, the fear, and total helplessness as the seal burrowed into her chakra coils and left an undeniable presence within her. "Now you understand, but I have to leave now, Enko, as I can feel the Umbu moving towards the forest. Do tell the Hokage that if the exams are stopped for any reason, I will crush Konoha and all who live within its walls," Orochimaru warned as he stepped back and began to sink into the ground using his Hirubansho, Boku no Jutsu, Leech All Creation, attack prevention technique, leaving Enko alone and still pinned to the tree. Flashback Kai. Enko was brought out of her thought by the sound of growling. She looked around only to spot 3 huge tigers of the forest moving in, having picked her for their next meal. "I don't have time for this, but I can take my pent-up aggressions out on you 3 before meeting with the Hokage," Enko said as she steadied herself and pulled out a kunai just as the 3 tigers charged. Next morning in Sakura and Sasuke's position in the forest, Sakura's head jerked up for the umpteenth time in exhaustion as she struggled to stay awake to watch for enemies and tend to Sasuke. "It's morning now, hopefully Sasuke will wake up soon. I don't know how much longer I can keep my eyes open like this," Sakura thought as she turned to look at Sasuke, who was sleeping more soundly now that he no longer had a fever. Sakura tried valiantly to keep herself alert for danger but was nodding off again when a noise startled her. A squirrel came darting out of some nearby bushes heading straight for her. She didn't want the critter to trigger her trap, so Sakura threw a kunai ahead of the squirrel. The knife stopped the animal short in fear before it turned in a new direction and took off into the foliage. "That was close, I've got to stay alert," Sakura mentally said to herself as she just went back to watching the area. Nearby, however, the Odo team sat in the bushes watching Sakura as she fought to stay awake for any trouble. "I was sure the squirrel could have made it. Do you think she suspected the paper bomb on its back?" Sokka asked Dosu with agitation. "I don't think so. Look, she can barely keep her eyes open, much less detect a real threat at the moment." "Doesn't matter for now, Uchiha Sasuke will fall at our hands." "Come on," Dosu replied as he stepped out the bushes towards where Sakura was. "Hey girl. Wake up Sasuke, we want to fight him," Sokka called out as they stopped in the clearing and made themselves known. "Sasuke isn't in any condition to fight, so just get out of here," Sakura warned with a bravado she didn't feel at the moment. "Look princess, you can either wake up Sasuke or we do it for you," Kin threatened as she held a kunai towards Rosette Kunoichi. Sakura shakingly brandished her own kunai as she prepared to defend herself and her teammate from the Odo genin. "Yet for the sake of moving the story along, we are skipping this entire fight sequence. Reasons, It's cliché and it always ends the same, so just imagine that I wrote that really one-sided fight and get on with your lives, thank you. With Naruto a few yards away, Naruto could smell that he was getting close to where Sasuke and Sakura were. However, he also smelled at least 9 other people where they were and couldn't tell who they were. He could make out that everyone in the clearing was human but nothing else, as the very air was thick with chakra, both normal and tainted. The info of the tainted chakra had Naruto preparing for the worst as he moved closer to the clearing. Back with the scrapping genin teams in the clearing, Orochimaru-sama didn't inform us that he gave Sasuke the cursed seal. This definitely calls for a tactical retreat. Look, you win, we can't beat you. Let me gather my teammates, and we won't try attacking you again. Dosa thought to himself before speaking up, trying to convince Sasuke to let his team get away without further injuries. Drop your scroll, get your comrades and leave my sight. Sasuke huffed with a jerk of his thumb to the catatonic Zaku was on his knees in utter pain about his broken arms and the unconscious Kin who was slumped at her knees. Dosa quietly dropped his team's heaven scroll and grabbed Kin and Zaku before taking off into the forest out of sight of the 3 Konoha teams. You alright, Sakura? Asked a platinum blonde blue-eyed kunoichi by the name of Yamanaka Ino, who used to be friends with Sakura until their love of Uchiha Sasuke drove a rift in their friendship. Yeah, thanks for the help, Ino. Sakura replied with a tired smile as she looked up at the Yamanaka heiress. I'll even do your hair for you right quick, but don't think that this is to make you look better than me for Sasuke-kun, Ino said as she moved behind Sakura with a kunai to use as a makeshift pair of scissors and began to even out her hastily cut pink locks. Simon Dux. That fight was a waste. Shikamaru groaned as he sat next to Chuji, who opened a bag of chips and began to inhale them. Don't be lick at that, Shikamaru won. Chuji offered positively between bites. Yeah, you're right, Chuji. Besides, it's too troublesome to think about. Shikamaru replied as he leaned back to look at the clouds. Niji still stood up to the side as he watched Tenten wake their teammate Lee up while keeping a discreet watch on Uchiha Sasuke as well. Sasuke sat under a nearby tree by himself, just reflecting on this latest development. That power was intoxicating. I felt that nothing could beat me so long as I had that power. But Sasuke thought as he remembered what happened not too long ago. However, he was brought out of his musing by the general conversation between his fellow genin. So what do we do now? There are still plenty of teams out there who could easily beat us separately, Ino pointed out as she looked at everyone else in the clearing. Yash! That's an excellent idea. We can all make it through with the combined might of our youth. Lee all but shouted as he gave his nice guy pose before Tenten clocked him with a fist to the back of the head and pulled him down to sit and be quiet. Technically, our teams are still enemies for the remainder of this part of the exam, so teaming up wouldn't be wise, Niji warned as he stood up to the side but still listening. Ah, come on, Niji, it makes sense considering that all the teams are heading for the tower anyway. Besides, I'm sure all our teams have 2 scrolls by now, right? Tenten replied, trying to sway her pupilless teammate as she looked to teams 7 and 10. Troublesome, but yeah, we have both our scrolls. Shikamaru breathed out as he tried to focus on the clouds in the sky. What about you guys? Tenten asked, looking towards Sakura and Sasuke. Well, you see, Naruto, Sakura began after finding her voice only to be cut off by Ino, who decided to ask the question that no one else seemed to catch. Hey, yeah, come to think of it. Where is Naruto? I didn't see him at all, Ino pointed out as she looked around briefly before rounding on her ex-friend with a questioning gaze along with everyone else minus Sasuke. Before Sakura could even give an answer, rustling of bushes on the opposite end of the clearing put all the Konoha genin on edge at the noise. Everyone scrambled to prepare a defense, as they held kunai ready to fight whatever was about to emerge from the forest. The moment you see whatever comes out, hit it with everything you all got, Sasuke directed as he jumped in front of everyone to face whoever was showing up first. They didn't have long to wait as Naruto's familiar orange form emerged from the tree line with an even walk and a scowl on his face. This caused all the genin to breathe a sigh of relief as they lowered their guards. In Sakura's case, that relief turned to anger as she stormed towards her blonde-haired teammate. Naruto, you baka! Where have you been? Sasuke-kun and I had to battle another team without you and nearly lost because you weren't here to help, Sakura screeched as she stopped a few feet in front of Naruto, who, after getting close to her, continued right past her without a passing glance. Of course, this didn't sit with the girl, who still considered her teammate as her punching bag. Did you hear? Don't ignore me, you baka! Sakura yelled as she went to punch Naruto in the back of the head, only to find a vice-like grip around her neck, cutting off circulation. Everyone else in the clearing had to blink to make sure they weren't seeing things. 1 minute Sakura was about to clobber her teammate on the head. The next thing they knew, he was holding her completely off the ground as she struggled to get free. It was the most uncanny thing they all witnessed today, aside from Sasuke using a foreign chakra to decimate the Odo team. Let's get a couple of things straight right now. My name is Naruto, baka, or Dobe for that matter. Also, I won't tolerate you trying to take shots at me anymore. If you do try, I can promise Haruno you will lose a hand. Am I clear? Naruto said in a completely emotionless tone that had all the other genin shivering at the truth of his words. Even Sasuke mentally shivered at his teammate's tone of voice. Also, they were in shock at the fact he didn't have a huge smile on his face while shouting Sakura-chan. As for Sakura, she could only nod as much as the hand around her neck would allow as she stared at her blonde teammate with a newly found sense of fear. Naruto simply set Sakura on her feet only for her legs to give out, causing her fall to the ground in shock. Now then, let's head for the tower. We've wasted enough time as it is, Naruto said as he began walking past his fellow genin in the direction of the tower at the same pace he entered the clearing. Hang on, Dobe. Why should we listen to you? In case you forgot already, we don't have 2 scrolls. We barely managed to get 1 just earlier, and that was without your help, Sasuke challenged with his usual demeanor, as he pulled of the 10 heaven scroll for his blonde teammate to see. I wouldn't be wasting my breath by needlessly saying let's head to the tower if I didn't have the necessary number of scrolls to pass. Now let's go, Naruto replied as he pulled out the 2 needed scrolls, which shocked everyone at the fact that he actually had 2 scrolls in his possession. Wait a moment, how did you of all people get the scrolls from 2 other teams without getting into a fight and getting injured in some way? I demand that you answer me, Dobe, Sasuke shouted at Naruto's back as he kept walking. Hey Naruto, you baka, you answer Sasuke-kun right now, he asked you a question. Sakura screamed from her spot on the ground, having quickly forgotten what just transpired 20 seconds ago as her fangirl attitude surged to the front in an effort to impress her crush, only to have Naruto stop a moment later and glance icily over his shoulder. I have already warned you once, Haruno, strange how quickly you forget. As for you, Uchiha, you have no right to demand anything from me, and besides, what does it matter how I got the scrolls? I stand before you and those 2 teams do not. It's as simple as that. Get yourselves in gear. If you have enough energy to question and argue with your mouths, you can use it to move your legs towards the tower. And believe me when I say that I will leave you in this forest with no hope of passing these exams this year. It's your choice either way, the blonde replied as he resumed walking regardless of his 2 teammates still standing in the clearing looking at his retreating form. Whoa, that was harsh, Chuji said while still eating away at the chips. Something tells me that he's going to be incredibly troublesome from now on, Shikamaru muttered as he watched where Squad 7 took off. Wordlessly, while trying to look like Naruto didn't just totally own them in one shot, Sasuke began following behind his teammate who by now had exited the clearing completely. Sasuke-kun, Matt, wait, Sakura cried out as she scrambled to her feet and followed after Sasuke like a lost puppy. So troublesome. Ina, what are you doing? Shikamaru breathed as he looked at where Squad 7 took off at until he felt a tugging on his jacket and looked up to see his own blonde-haired teammate as she dragged him and Chuji along. If you think I'm letting Sakura get anywhere with Sasuke-kun, you gotta be dreaming. Also, we have both scrolls, so let's get to the tower already. Ino growled as she dragged the rest of her team into the forest behind Team 7. Team 9 just quietly brought up the rear as they also began the trip to the tower in the center of the forest. Over the next few hours, Naruto was surprisingly still leading the group as they made their way towards the tower. While everyone else moved through the trees, he was walking at the same pace that somehow kept him ahead of everyone else regardless of how fast they were going. They faced off against the team from AIM, but quickly overwhelmed them and continued towards the tower in peace. Soon the 3 teams found themselves outside the tower and decided to get this part of the exam over with as they were all tired and ready to rest. When the group got inside the doors, they came face to face with a large board that held a riddle on it. While everyone else struggled to figure it out, Naruto had already solved the puzzle at first glance and tossed the 2 scrolls to the floor as thin smoke started to waft from them. Seeing this, teams 9 and 10 followed suit until all 3 scrolls exploded to reveal 3 people. First, there was a man wearing a green spandex suit with a Jounin vest over it. He had a bowl haircut similar to Rock Lee and looked eerily like his adult carbon copy. This man was known as Mato Guy, a Jounin taijutsu master in Konoha. The second man also wore a Jounin uniform and vest. He had a beard that covered the entire length of his chin as he smoked a cigarette that hung loosely between his lips. This man was Sarutobi Asuma, son to the current Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. The final person wore the uniform of a Chunin rather than a Jounin. His hair was done in a high ponytail, and he had a scar that ran along the bridge of his tan nose. This was Yumino Irika, who was normally an academy instructor. Well, this is a surprise, you all made it together, Asuma said after exhaling a puff of smoke into the air. What are you all doing here, Asuma-sensei? Ino asked with confusion on her face. Allow me, Mato Guy, to explain it to you youthful genin. You see, when you obtained 2 scrolls and made it to the tower where you could finally open them, your Jounin-sensei would appear to meet you and get you prepared for the next step. Guy explained with a smile without surprisingly yelling. That is until Rock Lee spoke up with high praise, which launched the taijutsu duo into a loud rant that was soon broken up by Tenten before the sunset genjutsu set in. But that doesn't explain why you're here, Irika-sensei, Sakura pointed out to the Chunin. Well, this portion of the exam started. I volunteered to be the one to appear for Team 7 when you guys arrived. I wanted to see how well you all did, Irika replied as he looked over his students, looking no worse for wear after spending time in the forest of death. Soon there was discussion of what the board behind the adults meant and how it related to the exams, before they were allowed to rest up and recover before the end of the second exam the following day. The 3 Konoha teams went their separate ways as they each went to an assigned room for the rest of today as they reached the tower on the 4th day and had a chance to get cleaned up and rested before tomorrow. Sakura and Sasuke walked in silence behind their blonde-haired teammate, who somehow changed over the last 24 hours but wrote it off as him trying to be better than he was. When they reached the room, Naruto walked right past it as if it didn't exist. Hey Dobe, where are you going? Our room is right here, Sasuke called out as Naruto kept walking as if he didn't hear the Uchiha air at all. Don't waste your time with that him, Sasuke-kun. Let's just get inside so I can get a shower and wash my hair. Sakura swooned with syrupy enthusiasm as she opened the door for her crush, and they went inside to do whatever they wanted. Naruto wandered around until he found a bathroom and walked in. Knowing that he was alone, he lifted his shirt and jacket to reveal his stomach. By channeling some chakra through his body caused the seal to show itself. Naruto had to silently both praise and curse the yandere. He praised the man's skill for seals as the one on his body was truly a work of marvel, and yet in the same breath he cursed the man for saddling him with a life of blatant hardship and isolation as the jailer for the Kyuubi. Naruto stared at the simple design which he knew was completely complex as there was seal writing both above and below the large spiral in the middle. Looking closer he could see the handiwork of the Kusanine who slammed a seal on top of his own. When I meet that woman, again she will perish at my hands. Perhaps the Hokage can provide a solution. I'll make a visit when this exam is over. Naruto mused as he fixed his clothes and decided that he would rather sleep elsewhere than share a room with his teammates. So he went in search of a place to call his own until tomorrow. The following day found all the genin teams that managed to get 2 scrolls lined up in a large arena floor in front of a pair of large stone hands and the hand signed for Ohitsuji Ram. Enko stood at the front of these teams looking them over with a critical eye. What do you know, we've got too many teams to move right along to the finals. Perfect. Let's see, we've got 5 teams from Konoha, 2 from Kiri, 1 from Suna, 1 from Kumo, 1 from IWA. Oh man, is there gonna be huge publicity from this year's exams? Enko thought with a smile that just crept up on her face which put off more than a few genin that were intimidated. Alright you maggots, to those of you that made it this far, congrats. However, from here on in is where things get really interesting. There are too many of you to skip straight to the finals, so we're gonna have ourselves a little preliminary matchup to call the week and keep those that will put on a great show. Before we start, the Hokage is gonna give a few words first. The floor is all yours, Hokage-sama, Enko said with suspense and energy as she stepped aside for her leader to step up. The Hokage stepped forward and many looked upon him and saw an old man, but if their senses were sharp enough they would feel the raw power and intensity of Hiruzen's power and title as Kami no Shinobi, God of Ninja, as he gazed at all the Chunin hopefuls with an appraising eye. With a brief pull of his pipe, Sarutobi went on to explain the true purpose of the exams as an alternative to all-out war between the many shinobi villages which would cause more unneeded bloodshed. Now to explain how these preliminaries are going to proceed. Sarutobi started only to be cut off by another voice. Forgive me, Hokage-sama, but perhaps I should explain this, seeing as I am the prodder for this portion of the exams. A sick-like voice called out as a body landed near the venerable Hokage. All the genin turned to see a man dressed in the jounin attire walk over. He wore his hiyate as a bandana and had large bags under his eyes indicating lack of sleep. He coughed a few times into his hand indicating that he was very much sick, but that didn't stop Gecko Hate from performing his duties as a shinobi as he took the spot where the Hokage was just standing. Alright, I'm Gecko Hate and I'll be the proctor of third portion of the exams. You will all take turns battle in one-on-one matches until some is defeated, is unable to continue, or I stop the match if I think it's being prolonged. Any questions? Cade explained all the while coughing. Just go with it, he's sick, damn it. Will we be allowed to kill our opponents? Gaara asked with his dead-like tone which caused many of those near him to silently pray that they didn't have to be the one to lost their lives at his hands. Death of a combatant will only rarely occur if the circumstance can't be avoided. Outside of that there will not be any outright killing of the other genin. Hate replied, watching subtly as relief sagged on many of the genin's shoulders. You mean that we have to fight right now? Come on, many of us just got here and we are worn out. A genin from Kiri yelled, believing that the decision was unfair. Another attribute of the exam is to test the shinobi's ability to adapt and work under pressure and through fatigue. If you can do either, then you don't deserve to become a chunin. Hate replied while leaving a small look at the genin. Are there any more questions? Then let's get this preliminary tournament underway. Hate asked before oxifully declaring the start of the third exam. Chapter 2 Preliminary faces off, in the center of the Forest of Death. So now that the rules have been explained, let's get underway. First, is there anyone who doesn't think they can continue on with the exams? At this point, dropping out won't hurt any of your teammates' chances to pass. Hate pointed out while looking over all the genin. I quit, Proctor, I can't continue on. A voice rang out which caused people to look and see Ikushi Kabuto with his hand raised as he stepped out of the lines and began heading for the doors without sparing a glance. Is there anyone else that wishes to quit? Now is the moment to say so. All right, now, because there are so many of you, someone is going to have to fight twice. We will decide with this, bring it out. Hate said as he looked over the genin once more before motioning for something to be brought out. Whirring sound caught everyone's attention as they looked up where the stone hands were to see a large stadium screen reveal itself on both sides as they slid into position, while lighting up at the same time. The genin that is battling twice is Uzumaki Naruto. Do you have a problem with that arrangement? Hate revealed as the board stopped on a name, causing many to look at him for his reply. I will have to also rectify that notion as well when I speak with Hokage-sama. No, I'm fine with it. Says Homaru replied while looking disinterested with the entire affair. Let's find out who the first 2 combatants are. Hate and everyone else looked to the screens, some with eager, some in dread and some with aloofness. Time seemed to slow down the longer the randomizer took to select 2 names, but soon it rang out that it had made its decision. Everyone looked to see Uchiha Sasuke versus Akato Yoroi was displayed on the screen. They looked down to see a smile slide onto Sasuke's face at fighting first. The first match is Uchiha Sasuke vs Akato Yoroi. Everyone else please vacate the arena floor by using the stairs to the balcony so we can begin. Hate said as his voice rang out as best it could before walking down a ways to wait as referee. People started clearing out to make way for the two fighters. As Sasuke went to step forward he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to glance a man that wore the normal attire for a jounin. However, he had a few oddities about him, such as the navy blue face mask he wore in conjunction with his hiyate that was slanted over his left eye. Another thing was his gravity-defying silver hair that was unique amongst the ranks of Konoha. In his free hand was a small orange book entitled Ika Ika Makeout Tactics. This man was the world-renowned Hatake Kakashi, an S-rank shinobi of Konoha and the jounin sensei to Team 7. Sasuke, I heard about what happened in the forest. Try not to rely on your Sharingan during this fight, Kakashi said with a bored tone as he looked at his student with a lazy eye. What? Then how am I supposed to fight if I can't use my Sharingan? Sasuke replied as he looked at his teacher with a scowl on his face. Sasuke, don't pout. Just think of it as a small handicap to prepare you for the future. Good luck, Kakashi replied with a nice smile as only he could before walking off with his nose buried in his book. Sasuke just walked forward with a scowl on his face as he tried to size up his opponent, whom he recognized as one of Kabuto's stoic teammates. Yori wore simple clothing for a genin along with dark shades and a hanging bandana around his mouth. Sasuke vs Yoroi. Okay, the first match of the Chunin exams, Uchiha Sasuke vs Akato Yoroi. Ready, Hajime, fight! Hade called once everyone was clear of the floor, and he saw both combatants were ready. He signaled the fight, then jumped back a bit to give them space. Sasuke and Yoroi just stared each other down while people in the balconies just watched on how this match would go. They each pulled out a kunai and rushed forward head-on. They met in a clang of steel as they fought a stalemate with their strength. Yoroi lashed out with a punch which Sasuke ducked under, then returned a punch of his own that Yoroi dodged by jumping back while tossing his kunai at Sasuke, who knocked it away with a timed swing. Too slow, Uchiha, Yoroi said as he closed the gap quickly and was throwing a punch at Sasuke with a visible blue flame around it. Sasuke managed to sidestep the punch barely and watched as his shirt ripped slightly from the missed attack. Then he tried hitting Yoroi with a snap kick which he caught, and Sasuke felt a pulling sensation through his body. He quickly hit Yoroi in the stomach with his other foot, causing him to stumble back as Sasuke rolled away to assess the situation. What in the world was that? It felt as if my chakra was being sucked out, Sasuke questioned to himself, but he didn't have long to think about it as he was instantly on the defensive from Yoroi's overwhelming attack that he dodged with hairline precision. Up in the stands, everyone was watching as Sasuke continued to dance around his opponent's strikes in an effort to not get hit. Come on, Sasuke, fight back! Sakura cheered as she watched him dance around Yoroi's attacks. Kakashi, to the untrained eye, may have looked like he was reading his book, but he was watching the match along with everyone else. What will you do now that you're on defense, Sasuke? Kakashi thought as he looked on. His musing were broken by a feminine voice. Kakashi, looks like your genin is having a tough time down there. And do you have to read that smut now? The voice said with a hint of anger and disgust about at the end when speaking about the book as the person got close enough. Kakashi glanced over at his fellow jounin. She was a kunoichi of extreme beauty with perfectly unblemished skin that was accentuated by her raven black locks that hung to the small of her back and the unique white and red dress that seemed to be made of bandages. Another unique feature about her were her wine-colored crimson orbs that could be mistaken for the Uchiha Kekkai Genkai at first glance. This was Yuhi Kurenai, a renowned genjutsu specialist and the jounin sensei for Team 8. I wouldn't count Sasuke out just yet, Kurenai. As for my choice of book, if I don't read it, how will I find out what happens at the end? Kakashi replied in the same bored tone as he turned a page in his book. Kurenai could offer nothing but a small glare at the silver-haired nin as she turned her attention back to the match. Back on the arena floor, Sasuke was still on the run as he couldn't get an opening to attack from as he ducked another haymaker punch and tried a backfist to Yoroi's gut, which was dodged by a sidestep before Yoroi continued his assault. What's the matter, Uchiha? Scared to fight? Well, hold still and I promise the match will be over in a flash. The mask-wearing genin taunted as he attacked in a frenzy while still trying to land a hit on the bouncing Uchiha. Sasuke kept up the dodging as he looked for an opening. Come on, Sasuke, you've been on defense for too long. It's time to hit back, he said as he managed to hit Yoroi in the head with a right hook. Then he flashed through seals and put his hand to his mouth. Katan, Gokaki no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball technique. Sasuke went to launch his jutsu when his body suddenly seized with pain like he never felt before. He fell to a knee in pain, which gave Yoroi the opening he was looking for as he ran over and hit Sasuke in the jaw with a shattering right knee. Sasuke's whole world blossomed into pain as he sailed briefly through the air and landed roughly as he skid for a few more feet before coming to a stop. Yoroi didn't waste his advantage as he rushed over and kicked Sasuke back to the ground as he was just getting up. Sasuke then felt the sensation that overrode the pain, his chakra leaving him. He looked up to see Yoroi's hand clenched on his head. He raised his arms to try throwing him off, only to find himself growing weaker by the minute. You like? This is my chakra kyushu no jutsu, chakra absorption technique. And guess what? I'm not gonna let you go until I've drained every last drop of your chakra from your body. Yoroi laughed as he watched Sasuke struggle and scream to get free. Back to the sidelines, people were drawing their own conclusion to the match. It looks like Sasuke's done for now, Inuzuka Kiba said with a chuckle as he watched Sasuke's predicament. Take that back dog breath. There's no way that Sasuke-kun could lose to a guy like that. Ino cried as she watched her crush get his chakra sucked out. At Ino's jab about his breath, Kiba tried to launch himself at her only to be held back by his stoic teammate Aburame Shino. The Jounins just looked on with an observing eye as the match went on. Still think your kid has a shot, Kakashi? From here it looks as if he's reached his limit, Kurenai asked without taking her eyes from the arena. I'm not ready to give my opinion just yet. Is this really all that you have, Sasuke? Maybe it was a mistake to enter you guys in this year's exams, Kakashi replied as he looked at his student down below. Down in the arena, Sasuke struggled as much as he could with his strength waning, as Yoroi continued to absorb his chakra. I can't let it end like this, not after I survived that fight with that woman. Sasuke used to motivate himself as he urged his body to move as he gripped Yoroi's hand on his head and threw him off with a burst of strength, then rolled over to his knees. While looking at his opponent, So you managed to get free. Well, I'll correct my mistake and take the rest of your chakra, Yoroi said as he sprinted forward with chakra covering his hands again. Sasuke managed to get to his feet at the last minute and resumed his dodge, although he knew that in the back of his mind he couldn't last much longer and needed to end the fight now. Not wanting to end up in pain again, Sasuke forsook using his Sharingan as he seemed to vanish from Yoroi's line of sight in a flash. Where did he was all Yoroi could form with his mind before pain blossomed in his jaw. Glancing down at the last moment, he saw Sasuke's foot outstretched to the sky. Here he kicked Yoroi and the rest of him in a half crouch against the area floor, only to jump and appear underneath the airborne Yoroi. Guy and Lee were beside themselves at Sasuke using partial moves of the Goken style. Simply amazing, Uchiha Sasuke. You continue to prove yourself of the title genius and being worthy to be my eternal rival, Lee screamed as he watched Sasuke fight. That's the way, my student. Not only was Sasuke able to perform the Konoha Senpu, Konoha Hurricane, but now he's set up for an attack by using the Kage Bio, Shadow of the Dancing Leaf, Guy said as he joined his student in a joyous cry and hug as a sunset appeared in the background behind them, causing many to wonder if they were trapped in a genjutsu. Gi-sensei, Lee, Gi-sensei, Lee. Of course this would have went on forever and scarred many a person not used to their antics, had Tenten not put an end to the shouting by using a mallet that she pulled from seemingly nowhere and bashed them both once on the head. That's enough of you two. Can't you both act normal for once? Tenten asked the spandex-wearing duo as they cowered under her fury as long as she wielded the powerful hammer. Jigomen Tenten-chan, we are truly sorry. That's right, we will behave in the future, Guy and Lee offered to their weapon-wielding teammate as they hugged each other for dear life until she stepped away and left them to their own devices. Guy-sensei, that was amazing. How did she instill such fear as well as pull that mallet from nowhere? Lee asked 2 seconds later, having seemingly forgotten his moment of terror. Lee, my most youthful student, it's a most important lesson of life that I will pass on to you so you may be better prepared for the future. Now, Guy replied as he too stood not a second later with his nice guy pose going full blast as Rock Lee looked on with an expression of awe as he wrote down what his sensei was saying with rapt attention. Back in the battle with Sasuke, he appeared under Yoroi with a scowl on his face. I'll admit that the kick was taken, but from here on in, it's all original, Sasuke said as he put 2 fingers to Yoroi's back only for his body to spasm in pain again as the seal on his shoulder tried to active, causing the flame-like markings to spread across his body slowly, which provoked different actions out of certain individuals. Kakuku, that's it, Sasuke. Show me you have what it takes to handle the overwhelming power I've given you. A certain snake Sennin disguised as the Jounin sensei for the Odo team thought with a smile as he watched his seal in progress spread across the young boy. Sarutobi silently watched as the curse mark activated on Sasuke. He didn't signal his Umbu to move in just yet because he wanted to see how this situation would develop first. Anko, on the other hand, was gripping the railing so tight, her knuckles popped from the pressure she was putting on them as her eyes confirmed what Orochimaru told her in the Forest of Death. She wanted to stop the match and get Sasuke to a secure location to try and remove the damn thing, but knew that the Hebe team was somewhere close by watching for any signs of his plans going awry. Why does this hurt? It didn't do anything like this when I woke up, Sasuke mused as his body continued to be racked with pain, until he heard a dark whisper in the recess of his mind. You will belong to me, now use the power that I give freely, the voice whispered with an oily undertone as the curse markings flared and pulse red as its influence began to spread across Sasuke's psyche. No! I will not let this thing control me. I have a goal to fulfill and I will achieve it no matter what, Sasuke mentally shouted with determination as he exerted control over the curse mark and suppressed its influence, which caused the curse mark to recede. Amazing, he's actually fighting of the curse mark through sheer will alone, Anko thought as she watched this spectacle with unbelieving eyes. Sorry about that, let's finish up this match of ours, Sasuke said after regaining control of his body and putting his hands back in place on his opponent's back. Yoroi tried to punch Sasuke, who avoided the blow by rolling the opposite way and hitting the boy in the chest with a back fist. Then Sasuke rolled again and struck with a kick followed by a kick to the other side. As the ground got completely close, Sasuke rolled until he brought himself around and hit Yoroi dead in the chest with an axe kick while calling out the name of his new taijutsu move as his opponent's back slammed into the ground and knocking him unconscious. Shushurindan Lion's Combo. Sasuke rolled backwards off his opponent as Yoroi was sent packing. He overshot and would have kept rolling were it not for the timely arrival of Kakashi to halt him further. Shousha, winner, Uchiha Sasuke. Hade called while checking for Yoroi's pulse and signaling for medics as he pointed to Sasuke who was breathing shallow from the fight. Well, now you managed to pull the win, now let's take care of that curse mark, Kakashi said with a smile before he put a hand on Sasuke's shoulder and used the Shunshin no Jutsu to whisk him away to a secure location. With the spectators on the balcony, people were talking about the match. That Kakashi? Well, it seems that Sasuke has set the standard by going first. You think you kids have a chance of stacking up Kurenai? Asuma observed as he stood looking at how many cigarettes he had left. I think so, they've been training for this non-stop. I believe they will do well. What do you think, Guy? Kurenai replied while narrowing her eyes at what she know that Asuma wanted at the moment to soothe the nicotine urge in his bloodstream. Looks like Konoha's Genin might have talent after all. Sabaku no Kankuro commented with a brief chuckle while watching as Yoroi is carted off by the team of medic. I'll believe it when I see it, Kankuro. To me it seemed like they were just trying to show off their prized Sharingan user more than the real skill of their shinobi. Came from Suna's Jounin-sensei Baki as he scoped out the rest of the competition. Let's see who the next two contestants are for the second match. Hate said as he got everyone's attention glued to the randomizer after Yoroi was moved from the arena floor. Once again certain people were hoping to be next so they could show off their power, while others wished that they were pushed back on the call list. Finally the screen slowed down before coming to a stop. The next pair of combatants are, in the basement of the forest tower. Sasuke found himself situated in the middle of a circle made entirely of seals with candles all around. He briefly glanced at the room while Kakashi was preparing for whatever he had planned. The room was large and spacious with pillars as far as the eye could see, as well in the dark anyway. Sasuke soon felt a sensation on his skin and looked up to see Kakashi with a calligraphy brush drawing something on his neck where the seal was. What exactly are you doing? Sasuke asked while trying to get as good a look as he could. Hold still and I'll tell you when I'm done. They're all finished. Now then, to answer your question, this seal on your neck will help keep the curse mark in check. However, you should know that the seal I just put on you will be powered directly by your will to resist the curse mark's influence. So you need to take caution that you don't give in to that seal on your neck, Kakashi said as he pulled the brush from Sasuke's neck and began to put his tools away. So this will help stop it? Sasuke asked while looking over his shoulder at his sensei. More or less with your direction, of course. Now then, turn back around so we can finish this and be done, Kakashi replied as he began to blur through hand signs with practiced ease. Once he was done, he put his hand over the curse mark on Sasuke's collar and completed his seal. Fujihouen, evil sealing method. As soon as the words left Kakashi's lips, the flames of the candles in the room all flickered towards the middle of the circle where power was beginning to build. Sasuke started to scream in pain as the seals on the floor began to race up his body and form around the curse mark in the correct pattern to form the seal that Kakashi intended to use. The moment the seal was done etching itself to Sasuke's neck, he passed out from the exhaustion. My, your skills have certainly improved, Kakashi-kun. Came a voice from within the room which had Kakashi spinning around with his Sharingan exposed and a kunai in hand. Who's there? Come out right now, Kakashi ordered as he prepared for a fight if need be to protect his student. Orochimaru stepped into the dim light that the wall torches provided for the room, which put Kakashi completely on high alert to the Sanin's presence here. Orochimaru, I should have known. What are you doing here? And I have to warn you, the wrong answer could cost you, Kakashi warned as he gripped his right arm with his left and charged a huge amount of lightning chakra into his hand to create his Raikiri, lightning blade. I'm merely checking on my future investment, but believe me when I say that if I wanted to take Sasuke from here you wouldn't be able to stop me, Orochimaru replied as he looked at Kakashi with an amused expression on his face. Just go ahead and try it. Kakashi fired back as he pumped even more chakra into his jutsu, which caused cracks in the ground where the lightning gathered and sparked. You certainly make me laugh. Relax though, I'm merely a shadow clone. Although if you still want to try your hand at beating me you're more than welcome to try. Just kidding, you be sure to keep my investment there safe and sound or I'll be back to destroy you outright, Orochimaru challenged with a smile as he pulled out a kunai, only to turn around and leave the area via fading from existence while his voice projected the last thing he wanted to say. Kakashi waited until he was sure that Orochimaru was gone before he slowly released his hold on the lightning chakra building in his hand. After recovering his single Sharingan, Kakashi turned around to pick up Sasuke. What in Kami's name was I when I thought I could go toe-to-toe with a Sannin and win? Kakashi asked as he slung Sasuke's unconscious form over his shoulder and started for the hospital. Sometime later in the arena for the prelims, Naruto was being increasingly annoyed with the amount of time it was taking for all these matches to start and finish. The fights he witnessed so far were one-sided and unimpressive. That and it was taking a long time for him to battle despite being the one person to fight more than once today. Second match. During Shino's match, His opponent Zaku was outmatched by the young Aburame and didn't realize that the holes in the palms of his hand were being blocked with Kikeichu from Shino's Muchi Bunshin bug clone. So when he went to use his Zenkakyakua, ultimate air slicing blast, to try destroying Shino who had the fight in the bag, he blew his arms completely off at the elbows instead. Third match. Sabaku no Kankuro and Tsurugi faced off against each other, yet it was no surprise that Kankuro came out on top using Suna legendary Kagutsu no Jutsu, art of puppetry. Especially when Tsurugi's only real jutsu was one called Nan no Kaizo, soft physique modification, that allowed the user's limbs to become willow-like, which didn't help any when his neck was snapped by Kankuro's puppet named Karasu, Crow, after using Kawarami no Jutsu, replacement technique, to switch places with it to catch Tsurugi. Fourth fight. Kakashi had reappeared by this time to witness Sakura face off against her rival Ino. Words and weak attacks were exchanged between the girls as they battled with Academy-style Bunshin, clone, until Ino managed to catch Sakura with her clan's Jutsu Shintenshin no Jutsu, mind transfer technique. Ino was going to force Sakura to say that she forfeited until Naruto called out to his pink-haired teammate and told her to prove that she wasn't here just for show. Suffice to say that his words sparked interest in certain people, including his sensei, who just filed it away until he could talk about it in private. After that statement, Sakura somehow kicked Ino's spirit out of her body, and they resumed their fight, which ended in a double knockout from the equal haymakers the girls gave each other. When it was all said and done and both girls came to a bit later, they made up and their friendship was mended somewhat. Fifth match. Naruto could honestly say he was looking forward to the fight between Sabaku no Temari and Higurashi Tenten, a match between two long-range specialists. Unfortunately, this match proved to be a mismatch, as everyone found out that Temari's being a wind user trumped Tenten's ability to hit her target with pinpoint accuracy. So when Tenten attempted to turn Temari into a pincushion with her Sashoryu, twin rising dragons, ace in the hole, and it failed, the wind user retaliated with an attack of her own after opening her battle fan all the way to reveal 3 purple moons on it. Tenten was unprepared as she was hit directly with Temari's Kamaitashi no Jutsu, great cutting whirlwind technique, and she found herself receiving cuts all over her body as she was trapped in a whirlwind pillar. After that, she ended up landing on the end of Temari's fan before being tossed off. Needless to say, this caused a heated argument between Temari, who was pleased with her win, and Rock Lee with how she treated his teammate. Sixth match and seventh match. As these two matches took place, Naruto couldn't help but analyze the foreign teams, as Kiri faced off with IWA in the sixth match, and then Kumo faced off against Kona. As Kiri and IWA battled it out, that became the first interesting match of the day, as both genin exploded out the gate from the start, and entered a very decent taijutsu exchange that broke apart into a ninjutsu battle. Basically, it came down to who wanted the win more, as both fighters were evenly matched in just about every area, so everyone was impressed when the genin named Ryuga of IWA came out on top despite having the elemental disadvantage during the fight. Match 7 was all right. Omoi from Kumo faced off against Inuzuka Kiba. Naruto couldn't doubt that both were good fighters in their chosen area of combat. Omoi demonstrated his skill-clan Kenjutsu and lightning attacks while Kiba showed of his clan's techniques. Omoi tried to catch Kiba early with a Kumo favorite known as Raidun, Raikyu, lightning release, lightning ball, but Kiba proved his decent speed as he outran the jutsu and hit Omoi dead on, only to find out that Omoi switched with a Raidun, Bunshin, lightning clone, and was jolted badly with electricity. He would have lost to Omoi were it not for the assist from his Niken, ninja dog, Akamaru, who distracted Omoi long enough for Kiba to shake off the lightning. Then Kiba used Kombi Henjun Akamaru to make a clone of himself. Next, they both used the Inuzuka clan technique called Shikyaku no Jutsu, for legs technique, which allowed them increased speed and endurance as well as an increased level of feralness while fighting. Omoi was able to hold them both off with well-timed blocks and evasions, but ultimately lost due to Kiba and Akamaru using another clan jutsu called Gutsuga, double drill fang, which was proved too fast and overwhelmed him, giving Kiba the win. Eighth match. This match really had everyone tense and on edge as Hyuga's Hinata and Niji faced off against each other, and before the fight even begun, Niji tried to psychologically tear Hinata down due to some old hatred that grew within the famous clan. She took his words to heart, and almost quit before looking up at Naruto. As Violet met Blue, an entire conversation passed between them. When Hinata refocused her gaze on her opponent, many people were surprised to see a burning fire of determination in her eyes. The moment the fight began, both Hyugas activated their Byokugans and fell into the clan's Jukenryu, gentle fist style, and attacked with a graceful fury that left many breathless. Back and forth the two Byakugan users battled in an effort to overwhelm the other with lethal strikes to the body. After a very heated fight in which Hinata pushed her cousin back, he revealed that the tenketsu in her arm were closed since the beginning of the match. More words were exchanged between the two Hyuga, resulting in Niji trying once more to dissuade her from continuing against Destiny. When she refused to back down, the match resumed with the same intensity as before, only now Hinata's strikes lost most of their effectiveness, but still she battled to prove her cousin's words false. What happened next not only annoyed Naruto but downright pissed him off, although he hit it well. Flashback Fuin. Proctor, she's finished, you can call the match now. Niji sneered at his cousin's prone form as he turned his back and began to walk away. Shousha Hyuga ne hate began until he saw what was thought to be sure. Hinata was putting all her effort into getting to her feet again despite the pain she was in. Niji turned back when he realized that his win wasn't being announced, only to see his cousin standing wearily on her feet with blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. However, the fire in her eyes wasn't diminished in the slightest. If anything, it was burning even brighter. Why do you continue to fight against your destiny, Hinata-sama? You are powerless, scared and confused, so why not just give up? You don't belong here, and you'll just end up dead if you remain. My eyes can see that, Niji said as he looked at his cousin with disdain. You're wrong, Niji and I-san. I can see the truth. You're more broken and confused than I about the dissection of the main and branch house. Hinata replied through shallow breaths as she grasped her side in pain but still unwilling to give up the match. This of course sent Niji into a rage as he charged full tilt at the Hyuga heiress, intending to end her life. Hate and many of the Konoha jounins were about to move, however Sesshomaru proved faster than any of them. Just an inch away from striking Hinata, Sesshomaru put his body square between her and the enraged Niji, who found himself hoisted off the ground and gasping for air as he looked directly into unmerciful yet dead eyes. When the jounin came over to run damage control, try as they might they couldn't make Sesshomaru drop Niji. That's enough, Naruto, don't do anything you'll regret, Kakashi said as he tried to intimidate his student into letting the Hyuga boy go, although he was ignored. Your sensei is right, Uzumaki. If you continue like you'll be disqualified before you even had a chance to fight. Hate also tried as they continued to try with no luck to get Niji free from Sesshomaru, who let up the pressure just enough that the Hyuga could breath properly but couldn't get free. After what seemed like a lifetime, Naruto spoke up, and what he said made everyone feel as though pure ice was dropped in their stomachs. If you take another step towards her, I can assure you that I will pluck those eyes of yours from your head. That way you can watch as the ravens feast on your flesh, after I'm through doing to you what you just did to Hinata, Naruto said with such a deadpan expression that Mei flinched at the vision at what the blonde said. Even Orochimaru, who was in a disguise, flinched at the ruthlessness that the Jinchuriki just displayed. Without sparing another glance at the boy, Naruto threw him to Guy's feet, causing him to hit the ground in a heap. Niji sat up and tried to burn a hole in the back of the blonde nin, who paid no mind as he walked over and picked up a coughing Hinata bridal style and began heading for the infirmary, leaving behind a stunned arena at his actions just now. Flashback Kai, 9th match. When the board showed that Sabaku no Gaara and Rock Lee would be facing off, many thought that it would end rather quickly in Gaara's favor. They were all completely surprised by the amount of skill and power Rock Lee possessed, none more so than Kanekuro, who decided to move over to where Sesshomaru was. As he watched as Lee removed his leg weights and actually powered through Gaara's Suna no Tate, Shield of Sand, and gave him an up-close look at the Omote Range, Secondary Lotus. After opening the Kaiman, initial gate, of the Hashimantanku, 8 celestial gates, Gaara proved his skill at using the sand in his gourd when he performed Kawarami with a Suna Bunshin, Sand Clone, to avoid most of the damage. However, many weren't prepared for the bloodlust that seemed to radiate off of Gaara in waves, as it was revealed that he was also using a technique called Suna no Yoroi, Armor of Sand, when the match really heated up. As the fight went on, Rock Lee proved his mettle and skill as a taijutsu specialist. Ash forged ahead with the battle despite the damage he was receiving himself from Gaara as sand. Sesshomaru had arrived back by this point in the match to see Rock Lee go on the offensive. Gaara directed his sand to attack Rock Lee, who recovered some energy and movement to dodge all the attacks, having decided to end the match while on his last leg set himself up for a trump card. Rock Lee showed the true extent of his power when he opened the Simon, Life Gate, and chakra began to pour off him in waves, as his body in waves while his skin became red. Just before setting up for his attack, Lee's chakra spiked even further as he opened Shimin, Harm Gate. Everyone was in for a major shock, Gaara included, when Lee moved in a burst of speed that tore up the entire arena up, and dust flew everywhere as Gaara was hit with a rising kick with so much power behind it that Gaara's sand armor was cracked everywhere, and his shield couldn't keep up with the speed Lee was moving at to protect its user. Lee then began a juggernaut run that would never be forgotten by anyone watching, as he pinballed Gaara all over the place with powerful hits that left the sand-wielding nin in pain. With the last of his waning strength, Rock Lee knocked Gaara into the air with a jaw-shattering kick and appeared above him with a punch that attached a bandage to Gaara's sash, which Lee pulled back towards him as he pulled off the Ura Range, Primary Lotus, that sent Gaara crashing to the floor in an impressive wave of power. When the huge cloud of dust settled, many were surprised by the fact that Gaara's gourd could become pure sand, which acted as a cushion to help avoid a fatal blow. Rock Lee on his very knees tried to crawl away, only Gaara wasn't satisfied as he used his Sabaka Q, Desert Coffin. However, because Gaara's power was running low as well, he only managed to catch Lee's left leg and arm, which he crushed under the power of Sabaku Soso, Desert Graveyard, causing the taijutsu using Lee to pass out from the overload of pain. Gaara directed his sand to move in and finish the job, only to be completely stopped by Guy, who stepped in to protect his student. Hate was about to call the match in Gaara's favor when he, along with everyone else, was shocked at what they were witnessing. Lee, even in his broken unconscious state, was still willing to battle until the end. Medics were called and Lee was rushed off to the hospital as Gaara was declared the overall winner. That is where everyone found themselves as they were looking at the match-picking screen for the next fight, when it should the next two combatants. 10th match. Would Kari of Kumo and Uzumaki Naruto of Konoha please come to the arena floor? Hate said after a short coughing fit. Naruto calmly walked down to the arena floor and stood before Hate when his opponent jumped down and made herself known. He quickly assessed her. Karui had unblemished dark skin much like her male teammate Oma, and she had her brilliantly red hair covered by her bandana Hiyate. Her eyes were interestingly a golden amber that were hardened with determination. All right, the 10th match. Karui of Kumogakure and Uzumaki Naruto of Kanahagake, Hajime. Hate said as he brought his hand down and jumped back to give them space to fight. I'm curious, what kind of shinobi wears bright orange like that? You're either really skilled or foolish for doing so, Karui asked as she unsheated the ninjato from the back of her waist and pointed it at Sesomaru, who just stared back with indifference. Karui decided to make the first move as she threw a handful of shuriken at him, which he dodged by jumping to the side. However, that was a ploy by Karui, who rushed in and attacked with a flurry of strikes that were very skilled for a genin. Naruto showed his speed though by evading each strike as if it was nothing before catching her sword arm and giving her a snap kick to the torso that sent her sprawling across the floor. Karui got to her feet and saw that her opponent didn't press his advantage. Thinking of course he didn't out of some feminist ideal, she became very vocal about it. Hey, why didn't you take advantage of the opening you had? Karui all but growled at Naruto, who didn't reply as he moved forward at an incredible speed and punched at Karui, who dodged but still ended up flying backwards and hit the wall with a loud crash. What the hell? But I dodged his punch? Doesn't matter, it's time I brought out the big guns, Karui asked herself, but was brought out of her thoughts when several kunai were coming right at her. Karui quickly rolled to the side and looked to see that Naruto hadn't moved once again, only to hear a hissing noise near her ear. Karui only had half a second to jump again before the explosive tags attached to the kunai went off and threw her further than she wanted, but she escaped the blast unharmed, other than being shook up as she landed in a crouch. After taking a moment to sheath her sword, Karui started hand signs for a jutsu when more projectiles came at her. However, she dodged them effortlessly by ducking, then moving to the left as she finished her hand signs. Right-un, Raiga Yari, lightning release, lightning fang spears. 10 large spears appeared in front of Karui, looking very wicked and sharp. With a wave of her hand, the spears launched themselves at Naruto, who then proceeded to move about the ring. Many were amazed at how he managed to always stay 2 moves ahead on the Kumo Kunoichi's jutsu when lightning was on, of the most deadly attack elements in their world. Naturally, Karui was getting upset at how he opponent seemed to dance around the spears. Let's see how you deal with this one then, Chiresu, Karui said as she parted her hands and the spears scattered into 20 that were constantly trying to skewer Naruto, who had enough with dodging and decided to block. Futon, Kami Daiko Kubashira, wind release, divine central pillar. The moment he finished the jutsu, a large greenish pillar, made entirely of wind, erupted from around Naruto's feet, and rose all the way to the ceiling to protect him as the 20 spears slammed into its side and were destroyed instantly. Karui was in shock that her jutsu was destroyed that easily by a genin she knew to be younger than her by 3 years. Everyone else from Konoha was also surprised at what they were seeing. Kakashi, just what have you been teaching your genin? Naruto is showing advanced techniques of a high Chunin to low Jounin level right now. Asuma asked the question everyone else wanted to know as his cigarette hung loosely in his lips due in part to what he was seeing. I haven't taught my genin anything like that, Kakashi replied as he revealed his Sharingan to better observe the fight below. Good thing he didn't pull up his headband before they launched those 2 jutsu, any? While everyone else was wondering about the blonde enigma known as Naruto, Hiruzen had a small smile at seeing his surrogate grandson doing so well despite all that he's experienced in life due to his semi-known status among the village. Seems as though you still haven't figured out your own motto, Kakashi. Oh well, it will be a good lesson for them all. Sarutobi chuckled as he watched the match with an appraising eye. Back in the arena, Karui found herself in close quarters against Naruto, who was giving her a run for her money by fending off her attacks with the kunai against her sword. She threw a punch which he caught before applying pressure and bending the arms slowly in the intended direction. Thinking quickly, Karui tried driving a knee into his stomach only for Sesomaru to jump back and throw more shuriken which she batted away with her sword. Why don't you take this seriously? Karui growled as she pointed her sword at the orange-wearing Nin. I am taking this seriously, but if you don't believe me, that's your problem. Now fight or give up, Naruto replied in an even voice as he rushed her and threw a solid punch-kick combo that she blocked before pushing him back with a roundhouse kick, then went through hand signs at a brisk pace. Katon, Carrier Enden, Fire Release, Fire Dragon Flame Missile. Aiming her mouth at Naruto, Karui let the flame burst from her mouth in a concentrated stream that could rival an Uchiha. Everyone watched with morbid fascination as the flames engulfed the area in front of the Kumonin, including the blonde himself. Naruto! Sakura cried, thinking her teammate wasn't fast enough to escape the blazing inferno she was witnessing. Kakashi wasn't too far behind her, thinking that no matter how good his student performed, that he couldn't have survived those flames. Karui kept up the fire jutsu for a solid minute before letting off. When she did and the flames began to die down, Karui saw something that made her blood run cold. Omoe was laid against the wall with burns all over his body and a shocked expression on his face. Other people watching witnessed something to a similar effect. Sakura saw Sasuke in place of Naruto, while Kakashi saw Obito with his crushed right side and all. For Niji it was his father, and somehow despite knowing that all these people were dead, everyone was freaking out. Oma! What in the hell were you doing, you fool? Karui cried out as she rushed to his side and attempted to put out the small fires still burning on his body. As she was tending to his injuries, Omoe's hand lashed out, and wrapped around Karui's neck and began to squeeze. Karui instantly fought the hold only to now catch on that she was caught in the snare of a genjutsu. Bringing her hands up into the seal Ohasuji, Ram, she tried to dispel the genjutsu. When it didn't work she tried again and again, each time flaring her chakra in an effort to break its hold. Realizing that she needed to get free, Karui pulled out a kunai and stabbed herself in the hand to induce pain. She felt the shattering sensation of a genjutsu being broken, but when seeing Omo's hand still clutching her throat, Karui knew that she was in too deep to break free. Outside the genjutsu, the only ones not affected by it was Naruto himself, who just stood there watched Karui. Hate, who wasn't be caught for the simple fact that he was the referee, and Hiruzen himself only because Sesshomaru wanted another set of eyes and his were the most experienced in the room. What type of genjutsu did you catch her in? Hate asked as he was curious on how she didn't break its hold already when stabbing her hand should have freed her from its hold. If I told, then it wouldn't be a secret anymore, but I will say that it was one of my own design. And it wasn't just Karui, everyone else was caught in its effect as well, the blonde said, indicating everyone on the balconies with a distant expression on their faces. Hate could only look at the genin in front of him with wide eyes. Here was the Academy's labeled dead last, showing true prowess in combat, that he not only put a genjutsu on his opponent, but the watching audience as well, with none of them realizing this. This fight has lasted long enough. Kai, Sesshomaru said as he walked over and placed Karui's own sword against her neck before dispelling his jutsu. In a flash, Karui and everyone else found the image of a burning comrade or loved one burning before their eyes gone. Instead there was a clean arena with the fire from Karui's attack still burning slightly. In Karui's case it was with the feeling of cold steel pressed directly on her jugular. Surrender, it's all you can do now, Naruto said with a soft tone that sent small shivers up Karui's spine as his warm breath tickled the nape of her neck and brought a very faint blush to her cheeks that thankfully couldn't be seen by anyone. Knowing that she was outmoved, Karui did the only smart move left. She yielded. Proctor, I forfeit. Shouja, Uzumaki Naruto, Hate called, letting everyone know the match was over as Sesshomaru stepped away from Karui and tossed her the sword when she turned around. Good fight. Hopefully we can fight again. I gotta know though, what was that genjutsu? Karui said before asking the question on everyone's mind. I will say what I told the proctor already. If I told, then it wouldn't be a secret anymore. However, I will leave you all with its name: Megan, Odori no Haikeisuki, Demonic Illusion, Dance of the Setting Moon. Naruto replied as he turned and walked away. Many were expecting him to come up to the balcony so they could question him further, but he just went and stood on the arena floor to wait. Hey, you're supposed to clear the arena floor, kid, Hate said as the screen started up again. What's the point when my name is going to come up again? I'm saving myself the trip, Naruto replied as he closed his eyes and waited with patience as the screen continued to spin through names before landing on Dosu of Oto, and lo and behold, Uzumaki Naruto of Konoha. 11th match. Time for the 11th match, Kinta-Dosu of Otogeku vs Uzumaki Naruto of Kanhagake. Would Kinta-Dosu come down to the arena? Hate said with practiced ease even as he looked at the orange-clad Sesshomaru as if he was some kind of psychic. Dosu shuffled down in his weird and hunched fashion until he was standing opposite his opponent, the final member of Team 7. As Hate began the match, Dosu was watching for a way to analyze Naruto for a weak point. Not seeing a physical one, he tried for a mental one instead. So I get the chance to finish what I started in the forest with your teammates, by crushing you here, Dosu said with a gruff tone to his voice as he looked for a reaction. Naruto gave one. It just wasn't what Dosu was looking for. And just how do you plan to accomplish this? While looking like a third-degree burn victim? Naruto replied without looking at his opponent. What did you just say? Dosu said with a growl before calming down by remembering that it's psychological warfare. You heard me, and besides I wouldn't have repeated myself regardless. If you aren't a burn victim, then you must be ashamed of your face. I would be too if I hailed from a village with a pathetic name like Oto. The blonde threw back while still keeping his eyes closed while being aware at how angry Dosu was getting. How dare you insult my home? Dosu roared as he charged Naruto and begun to swing his melody arm with wild abandon in rider to injure his opponent for the jib at his village, although Naruto wasn't afraid to dodge the attacks with ease. Meanwhile in the balcony people were having different reactions to that short battle of words. You'll pay for your insolence, Yukubigaki. I will make you regret your slight against my beautiful village of Oto. Orochimaru in his Jounin disguise thought as he kept his chakra from spiking in anger, which would get him discovered before his plan was complete. Did you see that? Naruto got that guy pissed in 2 seconds flat of starting the match. Chuji asked his two teammates, as he was so entranced by the fights that he wasn't even munching on potato chips. Yeah, was the only answer Ino could offer weakly as she watched her fellow blonde dance around his opponent's strikes. Troublesome. I don't know why you two are so surprised, Shikamaru replied with a groan as he rubbed his neck. What do you mean, Shikamaru? Asuma asked while lighting another cigarette, and taking a pull before looking at his student. Back in the academy, Naruto always had a way off getting under your skin even without you knowing half the time, Shikamaru replied as he glanced at his sensei from the corner of his eyes. Back in the arena, Dosu, attacks so far haven't had the desired effect of pummeling his enemy in front of him to mush. So calming down a bit he jumped back a ways while still looking at Sesshomaru with pure hate in his eyes. I'm going to turn your brain to mush, Dosu said with conviction as he held up his melody arm, and aimed it at his orange-wearing opponent. Is that so? All your attacks have worked so far. Naruto replied while looking at this mummified genin who was having delusions of grandeur. Yes, now bow to my might. Kayamaizen, vibrating sound drill, Dosusei with his chakra swirling as what appeared to be sound waves seemed to flow from the bracer and raced towards Naruto, who just dodged the attack entirely by throwing out a smoke pellet in front of him. Trying to hide won't work, I know you're in front of me, so take this. Kayamaizen, vibrating sound drill, Dosu said as he fired another burst of sound into the smoke cloud, thinking that his opponent already succumbed to his initial attack. When the smoke cleared, there wasn't the body of Naruto on the ground with his brain liquefied. Yet another one-trick pony. Now join the rest of the weak fools in the hell. Dekaso, toxic flower claw, Naruto's voice said from behind Dosu. As the words left his mouth, Naruto's hand took on a purple glow which he thrust into Dosu's head, killing him instantly. Many of the shinobi present expected the blonde to freeze up at the fact that he just took his first life. However, he just pulled his bloodied hand from Dosu's skull with a sickening squelch, and wiped it clean on the dead genin's sleeve. Kakashi, I can't believe your kid just killed his opponent with such efficiency, and without remorse, Kurenai said as she couldn't believe what she just witnessed. I know, and I'll have to speak with him as soon as possible. Kakashi replied as he pulled his Hiyate down to conserve chakra while Hate called Naruto for the win. Sakura couldn't believe what she just seen with her own eyes. Her teammate just killed his opponent in cold blood without batting an eye. In the back of her mind she knew that even Sasuke couldn't have managed such a thing in one go despite his goal of killing his brother to avenge his fallen clan. After seeing that, Sakura realized there will come a point when she will be forced to start taking lives and that she would have to work hard to survive her career as a shinobi. Epic revelation, of course scenic death will do that to people. Others just watched with detached fascination towards the cooling body of Dosu as his corpse was being carried from the ring. In Enko's case, she had a gleam of interest in her eyes while gazing at the young Yukai, which prompted a shudder to go through many Konohanins, more specifically Kurenai. She knew that when her friend caught an interest in something or someone, it usually spelled trouble for everyone, and right now Kurenai could see her focused on Naruto, who was aching his way up the stairs. Oh Kami, what is going through her head and how it involves Naruto? Kurenai mused as she got a look of worry for the boy at what might Enko may try. Shikigaki's gotten stronger since I seen him 4 days ago. I want to see if this new change is up to snuff or not. Enko though with an increasingly frightening grin that somehow no one managed to catch yet. When Naruto got back up to the balcony, he stood apart from everyone else not because of what he did but because he didn't want to deal with questions at the moment. After the excitement of Naruto's kill, the matches seemed to fly by after that, with Niyujito and Samui from Kuma winning against IWA and Kiri respectively. A kunoichi named Furo Akane from Kiri won against her opponent from IWA, and there was another double KO, this time from Chuji and the last genin from Kiri facing each other. So now lined up in front of the Sandane with exception of Sasuke stood 12 of the 13 contenders for the actual finals. Now with the ranks thinned a bit, it's time to draw lots for the actual finals of the Chunin exams. Whatever number you get is how we determine who will be fighting who. Enko is going to walk down the line, pull out a ball and call out your number. Hiruzen explained as Enko walked up to Shino, who was at the beginning of the line with the book. 5 Shino, 3 Temari, 7 Gaara, 10 Akane, 11 Samui, 13 Yujito, Troublesome, 4 Shikamaru, 6 Genkuro, 2 Ryuga, 9 Niji, 12 Kiba, 1 Naruto, and Sasuke makes 8. These are the matchups for the finals unless something happens within the time frame that is cause for us to alter the roster. See you all in a month's time, Sarutobi said and turned to walk off when a few of the genin voiced their complaints, mainly Kankuro. Hold on, what do you mean a month? I thought we would be fighting now. Kankuro asked, causing the old Hokage to turn back around to answer his question. I almost forgot. The point of the month is to use this time to improve your skills and reflect on the skills that your future opponents displayed here today. In addition, we hold the finals in a month's time because the daimyos of each country and important dignitaries are coming to view the skill and might of your village's shinobi. It's a chance to scout for which hidden villages will be suited to the missions they are called on to perform. Lastly, it's to see who among you have the best chance to survive the challenges of being a chunin. Now rest up and prepare to give us all a show to look forward to. Sarutobi signaled that they were finished here and people began to slowly file out of the tower. As Naruto stepped out of the tower and looked into the sun's dying rays, he knew that many challenges would lay ahead that will test his prowess and skill in combat. He looked forward to it all. Chapter 3: Weapons, Training, and Emerging Romance? Part 1. One day later at Konoha's main street just inside the village gate, Naruto was heading for home to sleep in his bed after a long day of training for the finals, when the memory of his conversation with Sakura sprang up in his head not too long ago. Flashback: Fuin. Naruto had just gotten inside the village gate when he heard a female's voice as they were running to catch up with him. Glancing back, he saw Sakura as she ran up and hunched over to get her breath back. What, Haruno? He asked while turning to give her his full attention, even though he'd rather had keep going. Listen, I've been doing some thinking since we were in that forest yesterday, and well, Sakura said with a small look of hurt that he still didn't address her as Sakura-chan anymore but still forged ahead. Out with it already. I'd like to get home sometime this century, Naruto said as he looked at Sakura with an indifferent expression that was bordering on annoyance at being held up like this. I was wondering if you could help me get stronger than I am now. Sakura asked in one breath without stopping, and if it were anyone else they would ask her to repeat what she said. But Naruto, for being around her for so long growing up, he learned to read in between of her speech patterns when she was like this. Let me understand this. You want me to help you get stronger? Do I look like the shinobi section of the library? Naruto asked, getting skeptical at this sudden change of heart in his rosette-haired teammate. No, and I know I wasn't exactly the friendliest person to you when we were growing up. Sakura started, only to get a look from her teammate that said she'd better skip to the point real quick. But you're my teammate. If you don't help me, then who can I turn to? Kakashi-sensei ran off before I could ask him, and Sasuke is in the hospital recovering, so will you help me out? Sakura replied, close to tears, as her teammate turned his back to her. She took that as her answer and went to leave, only to stop a moment later after hearing what was said next. Haruno, honestly I can't stand you or the Uchiha, and would rather end you both to save the world the trouble of dealing with you. This statement caused Sakura to take an unconscious step back as if he was going to attack her. However, seeing as I can't do anything about my choice of team for the time being, I offer 2 small steps in the right direction. First, get rid of your obsession with the Uchiha. It will only bring trouble in trying to make yourself look good for him at the cost of your career as a kunoichi, or your life. And the second? Sakura asked while wiping the tears that sat on the edge of her eyes. Study that scroll for chakra exercises tonight, and we will try something. Meet me tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock in Training Field 7 with your gear. However, this is a one-time thing, seeing as your predicament was of your own making, therefore you'll fix your own shortcomings as a kunoichi. Naruto replied as he tossed the small scroll over his shoulder at the girl before walking off. Sakura caught the thrown scroll and looked at the retreating back of her blonde-haired teammate with a small smile on her face. Before he was completely gone, she whispered her thanks before taking off for her home. Naruto just continued on as if he didn't hear her at all. Flashback Kai. Naruto reached his rundown apartment in the slummy part of Konoha, and just looked at the building in renewed disgust. The outer walls were an unsightly brown with the paint chipped or eroded badly in certain places. Most of the windows had holes in them where rocks and bricks were thrown by the villagers who thought themselves better than the demon they claimed to live here. Naruto had to mentally shake his head at the irony of that one. A demon did reside here now, just not one of the kitsune variety. Wasting no more time, he climbed the stairs that lead to his apartment on the 2nd floor, and wasn't surprised at what he found as he approached his door. Die Demon scrawled in red and black paint was written on his door. Go back to hell where you belong was on the opposite wall, and what he could smell to be feces. With the practiced speed of hand signs, a low-powered Suetun, Tepidama, water release, water bullet, was shot to remove the offensive message before he stood in front of his door. Having taken up Fuinjutsu, art of sealing, from a young age, Naruto was able to keep people from entering his small sanctuary and destroying his stuff on a regular basis ever again. Not unless they wanted to lose their hand, like one poor slob did when he thought he could pry open Naruto's bedroom window to leave a nasty surprise when he found the door not budging despite how hard he kicked at it. After getting inside and locking his door in place with the seal, Naruto grabbed a shower only to find out that the landlord turned off his hot water again, despite the fact that he paid the greedy bitch the night he came home from the first exam. Nevertheless, he washed quickly and got dressed for bed, and just before he laid down to sleep he looked out his window at the village. Just 7 more months and I can be free of this accursed place, Naruto thought as he laid down on his pillow and drifted off to sleep. I bet you're all wondering about that statement. It will be revealed later in the next chapter. Next morning, Training Field 7. Sakura walked up to Training Field 7 with sleep still in her eyes, to find Naruto waiting for her while sitting cross-legged on the ground meditating. She was about to call out to him when his voice rang out. You're late. I said 7 o'clock, not 7:15. Naruto said without opening his eyes. Sorry, my alarm clock didn't wake me up, Sakura said with a blush of embarrassment, while looking at Sesshomaru's sitting form. Rule 1 of the shinobi world: never make excuses for your actions, they waste valuable time. Did you look over the scroll I gave you last night? Naruto replied with a sagely voice as he finally opened his eyes to gaze at his teammate. Sakura could only nod weakly in silence at how Naruto was taking this entire training seriously. That's why after getting home in a daze last night she made a silent promise to get stronger no matter how difficult, and to earn her blonde teammate's respect back. Then I want you to start by practice the leaf balancing exercise while running suicides from the lake in groups of 10 until you reach 100. Then you're going to do squats in groups of 20 until you reach 100 again. You are going to build endurance and leg strength by performing these exercises, Naruto said as he got up and pointed out where Sakura would start her training regiment. When she started to walk off, he stopped her beforehand. Just a minute, you're also going to wear these 5-pound weights on your arms and legs. By doing this you add muscle resistance, which will strengthen your existing muscles while forming new ones from the training, Naruto added as he unsealed a set of 4 weights for her to wear. Wordlessly, Sakura strapped the weights on, which felt weird, and proceeded to run the suicides. As Naruto walked over to the lake with a bunch of leaves and stepped out, he found his chakra control unstable, and surmised that it was in part to that extra seal on his body. Once he got to the middle, Naruto slapped the leaves on his arms and forehead and began katas for a taijutsu/kenjutsu style that was based around multiple, fast, and unchained strikes that moved together to inflict massive amounts of damage while making use of his speed to keep his opponent off balance. Punch, weave, kick, spin, elbow, these motions went on for about 3 hours until Sakura's voice brought him out of his stupor. What is it, Haruno? Naruto asked as he tuned down his katas to a crawl but never stopped practicing while addressing Sakura. I said I've finished the exercises, what's next? Sakura asked with what little breath left in her aching lungs as she attempted to drag in more air. Naruto stopped his movements altogether as he stared at his pink-haired teammate standing on the water's edge. Sakura was covered head to toe in sweat and dirt. Her hair was matted to her head slightly and her breathing was shallow but regular, the normal symptoms of training. Her eyes, however, showed determination to keep going. Looking at the morning sky, Sesomaru could guess that it's been about 3 hours since they started, so he suggested she stretch her muscles as a cool-down method. When she was done with her stretches, Sakura could feel the protest they put up but was pleased with the results so far. She walked over to Naruto and sat near him and pulled out a bottle of water to drink as she soaked in her small progress. Looking over, she saw her teammate once again meditating and wanted to try for herself, so she did the only plausible thing. Hey Naruto, how do I go about meditating? I know what it does, but I don't know how to go about doing it, Sakura asked hesitantly as she looked at her teammate. When he didn't answer right away, she assumed he didn't want to answer her at all, but he surprised her after about 2 minutes. Relax your body and let go of your 4 thoughts while concentrating on one simple thing to keep focus. If you've done it right, then everything else will click into place, Naruto replied while still focusing on his meditation. Sakura sat down and followed his instructions to the letter, and soon found her mind pulled away from her body in a detached sense. Then she felt someone shake her shoulder, and she came back into her senses and looked up to see Naruto standing over her. What is it? I just got down to meditating, Sakura asked after finding her voice. Take some time to eat lunch, then you can go find Kakashi-sensei to get more help, Naruto said as he turned on his heel and headed for the village. But I don't have a lunch packed, Sakura called out with sheepish embarrassment as she scratched the back of her head. Then perhaps it's time you learn self-preservation, Haruno. I'll see you later, Naruto threw over his shoulder as he continued towards the village to eat, not caring how she got lunch. In Konoha, Jounin Lounge, all the Jounin of the Rookie 9 were seated at large booth table with Anko, Guy, Ginma, and Marino Ibiki from the IT department. Anko was currently in the middle of describing how the prelims went to Ibiki and Ginma when a shadow was cast over the table. Hey everyone, what did I miss? The female voice asked, causing everyone to look up to see who it was. They recognized who it was right away. Not that she was hard to miss with her waist-length purple hair, slightly pale unblemished skin, bright chocolate eyes and warm smile. This was Yuzuki Yugugo, one of Konoha's elite ANBU force, and right now she was off duty and in her civvies as she sat down with her friends who all give greetings in their own way, except Anko, who wrapped an arm around Yugugo. You missed one of the craziest prelims we ever had for the Chunin exams. You should have been there. The greenhorns actually managed to prove me wrong that they all didn't suck, Anko said with a smile as she started from the beginning for Yugugo's benefit and then caught up to where she was stopped and finished the story. When Anko was done, Yugugo and Ginma had looks of disbelief on their faces. Ibiki, on the other hand, had a scowl of irritation on his face. Who knew your brat was capable of that? I gotta say, Kakashi, he's really got a pair to top his performance from the first exam, Ibiki muttered as he downed his saucer of sake. What do you mean? Kurenai asked with curiosity, as the Jounin senseis weren't informed of how their students did even when that portion of the test was over, just whether or not they passed. What Ibiki means is that it's Uzumaki's fault there was so many of them for my exam and the prelim matches. Although I should find him and thank him for the show he brought with him, and the one he put on himself when he stuck it to that Otogenin's head like that. Oh man, I have to say he's got style. Anko butted in as she gulped down 2/3 of her 4th bottle of sake while still hanging off Yugugo, who was busy pouring a saucer of her own. Personally, I think you should talk to him about the fact he made his first kill, Kakashi. We don't need another incident like with Itachi happening, Asuma warned as the mood at the table became tense for a moment. I know, and after I talk with Hokage-sama I'll see to my student. Speaking of which, I'm late as it is for my own meeting, Kakashi replied as he stood while flipping his book and vanished in a poof of smoke while causing everyone else at the to groan at his habits. I swear, anyone want to place a bet on him being late to his own funeral? Anko asked, and immediately she got a show of hands from everyone at the table except Guy, who ranted about youth as usual. At the Hokage Tower, Kakashi appeared right in front of the desk of the Hokage's secretary. She was a woman in her early 30s with brunette hair and a stylish yet proper bun and a little makeup to highlight her features. All in all, she was a beautiful woman. However, Kakashi knew he wasn't here to ogle a civilian. Excuse me, I'm here to see Hokage-sama, is he in? Kakashi asked as he put away his Aika while talking to her. Yes, you can go on, she replied as she filed papers with a practiced ease. Kakashi gave his thanks and walked past her to the double doors of the Hokage's office, which were guarded by a pair of umbu that were like statues on either side of the doors. He knocked twice and waited to be let in. A muffled enter had Kakashi stepping into his leader's office to see the veteran shinobi swamped with paperwork as usual. Ah, Kakashi, I'm surprised to see you. You're only an hour late instead of your usual 3. Sarutobi said with a kind smile as he looked up from his work to see who it was. Well, I felt it prudent to be here earlier than normal so I can get all the info I need, Kakashi replied as he walked to the center of the room and no further, knowing full well of the 4 umbu stationed inside the office that acted as a last line of defense against an attacker and their Hokage. Certainly, what did you want to know? I'll try to answer as much as I can, Sarutobi said as he pulled out his pipe, packed and lit it before motioning for Kakashi to continue. Well sir, it's about Naruto. I was wondering if you could tell me anything about the skills he displayed in the forest 2 days ago, Kakashi said while looking directly at his leader for the answer. I'm going to be frank with you Kakashi, I could tell you but those are Naruto's secrets to share at his discretion, so all I can say is you'll have to make do without it, Sarutobi replied as he took a long pull on his pipe and breathed the scent of cherry tobacco into the air. I understand but if I'm going to help him, I will need all the info I can on Naruto to do that, Kakashi said as he tried to get the venerable Hokage to see his side of reasoning. Suddenly the entire room was flooded with killer intent so dense and potent, it took all of Kakashi's willpower not to buckle under its pressure. Eyes widening, Kakashi began to subconsciously sweat in fear a bit, for Sarutobi ceased looking like a frail old man and more like the Kami no Shinobi that he was known for in his prime as his eyes hardened yet he never changed his position or anything. Are you questioning my judgment and disobeying a direct order from your commander, Jounin Hataki? Sarutobi asked with an edge in his voice that spoke of nothing but trouble for Kakashi if he didn't salvage his blunder right this instant. Forgive me Hokage-sama. I was completely out of line and it will not happen again, Kakashi said as he instantly dropped to a knee and bowed his head in submission. After what felt like eternity the overwhelming ki was slowly pulled back into the fire shadow until it was easy to breathe again. Kakashi risked a glance at his leader only to see the man calming his fury that was almost unleashed. Rise Kakashi, Sarutobi said tiredly as he just took another pull of his pipe. Hokage-sama Kakashi started before the Hokage held up a hand for silence which Kakashi did instantly. It's quite alright Kakashi, I know you only have but the best intentions for the boy but I'm wondering, does Sasuke or Sakura tell you every facet of their lives? Sarutobi asked with his knowing gaze that seemed to look right through Kakashi. No Hokage-sama. Then how can you expect Naruto to reveal what's his if you aren't holding the entire team to the same standard? Basically what I'm saying is that everyone is entitled to privacy where their lives are concerned. If Naruto is willing to share his secrets then fine, but I don't want you trying to coerce them out of the boy and claim you did it in an effort to help him. Do you understand this Kakashi? Sarutobi asked as he set his hardened gaze back on the copying. Hi, Hokage-sama. Kakashi replied as he bowed briefly before standing straight up again. Well if that's all you're dismissed, Sarutobi said while waving off the silver-haired Jounin with his hand before putting his nose back to the grindstone. Kakashi got all the way to the door before he remembered his second question. Hokage-sama, I have but one more question. What do you intend to do about Orochimaru? I hear your concern and to be frank I haven't figured out what I'm going to do just yet, however that's why I've sent for Jiraiya. When he gets here in the next few days we'll begin coming up with a plan to deal with whatever my old student has planned for the leaf, Sarutobi replied as he looked up to answer Kakashi who just nodded in return before leaving. All across Konoha the finalists were preparing to start training in different ways or even just getting the lay of the land just to pass time before getting down to work. In Izuka compound, Kiba was laying underneath a tree near the house, relaxing with Akamaru laying next to him. Ever since winning a spot into the exam finals and then coming home, Kiba has done nothing but lounge about as if he didn't have a care in the world. I heard about the exams and I must say that I'm proud of you, pup, his mother Tsum said as she stood over him with a grin on her face. Thanks Ka-san, Kiba said with a grin of his own before he closed his eyes to doze off. Since you'll be going up against some very skilled genin, we are gonna get you as ready as can be for this exam, Tsum said dropping a backpack on Kiba's lap. What's this for? Kiba asked picking up the pack and looking inside to find tools and food provisions. Training, we're going deep into the forest surrounding the village to get you ready for the next 3 days. Tsum replied with a deep growl at the word training which didn't bode well for Kiba who gulped in fear at what his Ka-san had in store. Ka-san don't you think this is a bit extreme? Kiba asked while pulling out a pair of harnesses before looking up at his mother whose smile grew even more feral while looking at her son. I call it incentive. Now then get ready to go unless you'd rather tend to the pups for the next 3 days instead? Tsum asked with a sickly sweet voice as she hoisted Kiba to his feet, and he took off like a madman with Akamaru in his arms only to come back and grab the bag before taking off again. His Ka-san followed at a much more sedate pace while sporting a feral grin all the way. The Nara compound. Shikamaru sat across from his Jounin sensei Asuma, as they played an intense round of shogi while relaxing. Asuma knew that preparation was the key and decided to ask his student for his thoughts. So you have a month to prepare for the finals? Asuma started. Yeah. Shikamaru replied with a heavy sigh as his rook took Asuma's pawn. Do you have a training plan yet? No, besides it's too troublesome to think about. Ka-san's been trying to get me motivated about training but why waste precious cloud watching time for that? Shikamaru replied with a scowl as Asuma took his rook with a knight. Asuma just laughed at his student's typical response as they continued to play shogi for the rest of the afternoon. In the hotel room of the Suna siblings, all 3 genin were in the main sitting area in different spots. Temari sat stretched across a love seat with a book in hand that she was reading. Kenkuro sat in a recliner with one of his puppets across his lap as he was performing maintenance to keep the joints in working order. Gaara was standing still as a statue in front of the window when their sensei walked in the room. Good morning you 3. Baki said as he sat in the last available recliner as Temari and Kenkuro gave a greeting before returning to what they were doing. Gaara just looked at Baki in the reflection of the window glass before deeming what he had to say as unimportant. In all the excitement the other night, I wanted to congratulate you all on advancing to the finals. Now then we have a whole month to wait before the invasion. I don't want any of you bringing unwanted attention to us until then. Baki said this while subtly looking Gaara's way, hoping the boy could control his bloodlust for a while, before deciding to indulge the demon within. After getting a yes from both Temari and Kankuro, Baki got up and left the hotel in search of something to preoccupy his time, leaving the three siblings alone. When Baki got out of earshot, Gaara decided to move away from the window, which of course startled his brother and sister, who looked warily towards their little brother as he walked right past them towards the bedrooms. He's becoming increasingly unstable. I wish there was something that we could do, Temari whispered as she watched Gaara retreat into the hall. Despite the fear she had of her immortal little brother, she wanted to do all she could to keep him safe and whole. Never mind that for right now. What are we going to do about this invasion? I don't want to risk my life on whatever that Orochimaru promised our father in return for his help, Kankuro said, looking up from his puppet to answer his sister, who had a complete look of worry on her face. And you think I do? The best we can do is hope that we can find a way out of this without losing our lives or our brother, Temari said, jumping to her feet to pace while Kankuro watched. With Samui and Yujito, both the Ni sisters were walking the main street of Konoha, getting looks from its citizens, looks of want and lust from the men and looks of jealousy from the women. There was also a combined look of distrust among the elder populace, as they watched the two kunoichi walk around freely. Both girls ignored this, having grown accustomed to being viewed in such a way. Who could ignore the obvious beauty both girls had or the past transgressions of their village? First there was Samui, who was the older sister by a year, making her 16, wore a kunoichi-style bodysuit which hugged her curves and showed off her generous bust, which was a borderline D-cup. Her hair was cut short to the nape of her neck and allowed people to see her face, which was in a word, perfect, and she had eyes as blue as a certain yokai's, but her entire demeanor screamed business. Meaning she was more likely to slit a kunai in between your ribs than flirt with you. Yujito, on the other hand, had her blonde hair pulled back in a single ponytail that reached the small of her back. She wore the standard attire for a genin of Kumo, black shinobi pants with a black short-sleeved shirt. On top of the shirt she wore, Yujito has a small black breastplate for added protection. Her face, like her sister's, was beautiful and was exotic. She had seafoam green eyes that were slanted in resemblance to a cat's. What many outside of Kumo didn't know that she was the Jinchuriki of the Nikomata no Nibi. They got along fine most of the time, but now wasn't one of those times, as she was having an inner rant with her tenant about the same old subject, Yujito's lack of a love life. All I'm saying, kitten, is that it wouldn't hurt to find some love to fill your life, the Biju said as she laid on her paws behind the cage of Yujito's mindscape. Nibi, we've been over this. I don't want nor need a relationship to be happy. Yujito threw back as her face gained a scowl on the outside as she walked along. All right, kitten, I'll drop the subject for now. But it wouldn't hurt to remember what I said, any? Nibi replied as her voice slowly faded into the back of Yujito's mind as the connection was muted. Yujito let out a small sigh which didn't go unnoticed by her sister as she looked at Yujito out the corner of her eye. Nibi, hassling you again? Samui asked with a quiet voice as they kept walking. Not really, it's just the usual with her. So what do you want to do until B-sensei comes back to help train us for the finals? Yujito replied as they stopped near a shop that sold weapons. To be honest, I'm going to the famous hot springs that are here. I need to soak my aching back. Samui replied as she reached up to rub her shoulders. You do that. I'm going to find something to eat. That hotel food wasn't enough, Yujito said as she started heading off towards the restaurants. One day I gotta figure out where you put it all, Yugi, Samui said as she walked off towards the hot springs. Yujito waved at her sister without a backward glance as her stomach was in the mood for food, to be more specific, ramen. Back in Kumo she ate the noodles on a daily basis, and now she wanted some, so here she was following her nose, which put her right outside a quaint little place called Ichiraku's. Wanting to fill her raging belly, Yujito walked into the small restaurant, and sat down as Ayam came over to take her order. Welcome to Ichiraku's, what can I get for you today? Ayam asked as she pulled out a notepad and pencil, then looked to Yujito expectantly as she looked over the menu. I'll have 5 large orders of shrimp to start, please, Yujito said with a bit of drool rolling out the side of her lips at the delicious smell that made her want to purr. Coming right up, Ayam said with a look that said red, oh great, not another Naruto, as she went to give the order to her father in the kitchen. As Yujito waited for her food, she was unaware that she would come face to face with her third Jinchuriki after setting foot in Konoha. Naruto had left Sakura to her own devices as he headed into town to get some food. While walking he didn't miss the discreet glares or the outright hatred that the villagers thought were hidden very well. Knowing full well that he wouldn't put up with the villagers' shit anymore, Naruto headed to Ichiraku's to get his fill of lunch before going to do his own personal training. Some things never changed, he thought, like his taste preference to ramen. Naruto walked into Ichiraku's with a sharp eye as he spotted a few other patrons enjoying ramen. One that particularly caught his attention was Ni Yujito from Team Kumo, if he remembered correctly. Hey Naruto, I haven't seen you all morning. Ayam greeted with a bright smile as she wiped the counter clean. I've been training is all. The finals are practically around the corner, and I aim to be prepared for them, Naruto replied with a shrug and a small smile to her as he sat at the counter. Well, I hope you do great. So what will it be today? Ayam said with a small laugh as she got ready to take his order. 1 large miso. Naruto said, which caused Ayam to drop the bowl she was getting after writing down his order. Only 1 bowl? Who are you and what have you done with Naruto? Ayam asked, looking at the blonde with pure shock on her face. It's me, Ayam. I just want a large miso ramen, that's all. As sure. Ayam said, going off to place his order in a daze. Yujito had gotten her 5 bowls of ramen and began to dig in, after testing the noodles and found them to be absolutely delicious. She was halfway through her second bowl when Nibby began to stir. Hey kitten, feeding your ramen addiction, huh? Nibby joked as she stretched from her nap. I don't have an addiction to ramen. I just happen to enjoy it very much. Yujito replied as she gulped down her second bowl and started on her third. I think that Chunin back in Kumo would disagree. Nibby said with a yawn. He had it coming. So what woke you from you infamous cat naps? Yujito asked as she could feel her tenant stretch out again as if to get comfortable before answering. I felt the presence of a second Jinchuriki nearby. Nibby said in the most lazy of tones, like she was talking about the weather. What? Who is it and are they nearby? Yujito all but shouted in her head while outwardly looking around with a calm expression. Why, it's the young Tom sitting at the counter, of course. Yujito whipped her head around to the counter so fast, she may have snapped her neck doing so. Her gaze came upon one of the 5 other blondes in the exam sitting at the counter eating a bowl of ramen. Uzumaki Naruto was his name from what she recalled. Quickly she questioned why anyone would name their child fish cake but shrugged it off to focus. Him. Why didn't you say anything in the forest? Yujito asked as she returned her head towards her own table but kept a sideways glance every now and again. Maybe it had to do with Shikaku and that Suna kid, leaking his bloodlust everywhere. Damned if he wasn't the craziest of us all, but there were times when he made the most sense. Anyway, because of that I didn't pick up on the Jinchuriki over there until I had this moment to feel the familiar sensation of one of my kin. Nibby said as she took a brief trip down memory lane before getting back to the matter at hand. So which biju does he have? Don't know, perhaps you can get him alone to ask. And from the looks of things you might just get that he's leaving kitten. Nibby pointed out as she looked through Yujito's eyes to see the boy getting up to leave the building. Naruto sat at the counter eating his ramen, when he felt a pair of eyes lock onto him, or a long minute only to move elsewhere. After ordering 3 more bowls of ramen to placate Ayam and digging in, he could feel the eyes on his back at random times as if to see if he was still there. Getting fed up and deciding to confront this person, he got ready to leave. Ayam, thanks for the lunch. I've got to get going, money's on the counter. Naruto called out to the brunette waitress who went into the back to help her father. After getting a brief goodbye, Naruto casually walked out the restaurant and out into the street, knowing that whoever was tailing him wasn't too far behind. Walking out the village gates and into the forest, he headed for the completely hidden away training ground that he used to hone his skills during his academy days. Taking off at a leisure pace, Naruto headed towards a waterfall that was near training ground 17. When he got there, he walked across the water's surface to the base of the waterfall itself. Channeling chakra through his body to keep from being plunged beneath the water, he walked through knowing that his pursuer was still there. Yujito was starting to get fed up with chasing Uzumaki just to speak with him. She tailed him for what seemed like hours as he walked as if he had all the time in the world. Of course he knew she was following him, but this was ridiculous. As they came upon a waterfall, Yujito couldn't help but marvel the beauty of what she was seeing. Making a note to come back here, she watched her target walk across the water and disappear behind the falls. Wasting no time, she followed his example and found herself in a hidden cavern which she walked to keep up with Naruto. Light soon appeared at the end of the tunnel and Yujito found herself on a small hill overlooked what appeared to be a hidden training ground. A stream ran from the left and fed into a lake that looked very inviting. Surround a moderate-sized clearing, the brush was at the perfect height to provide cover while still giving a line of sight to attack from. Trees dotted the area well enough to provide more training and tactic options. All in all, Yujito was awed by what she discovered, so much that she didn't register the kunai at her neck or the tip of a claw on her back before it was too late. How did he get behind me without Nibby or I detecting him? Yujito thought to herself as Nibby was eerily quiet as well. Why have you been following me, Kumonin? The soft voice came from behind Yujito, making her skin tingle from the warm breath that touched her neck. I only came to speak with you. I know of your secret. Yujito said quickly, knowing that no matter what she tried, all it would take is a twitch of Naruto's muscles to kill her. What secret of mine could you possibly know, ni Yujito? Naruto asked as he walked around to look Yujito in the eyes while never lowering his weapon from her neck. That you are a Jinchuriki like I am. Yujito said without fear. Why should she lie? And to further prove her statement, she channeled a bit of Nibby's chakra into her eyes, causing them to become purple and glow dimly. So which do you hold? He asked, removing the kunai but not putting it away as he accepted her answer before asking another question. Nibby. What about you, Kyubi? That caused Nibby to sit up completely within her seal. She couldn't believe the strongest of them was imprisoned. All this time she, like the rest of their kin, thought that Kyubi had gone off on one of her little vacation sprees that lasted for 100 years give or take. She usually used that time to cause some real underhanded mischief in the world. Then again, all the biju only came together on anything when they had disputes to settle with each other over territory. Talk about the affairs of Makai in general, or a serious threat to the delicate balance. such as that Jubi chimera that thought to call itself the ruler of all Makai. Bastard ain't such hot shit now that he's rotting in the afterlife, although they did lose the original Yambi during the battle. Yami bless his soul. Kitten asked if he's made contact with Kyubi-sama yet? Nibi all but yelled, causing her container to wince at the volume before asking the question. Nibi wants to know if you've made contact with your tenant yet? Yujito managed to ask after getting the Nico Yukai to stop raving in her head. No, and I don't intend to, Naruto said as he was starting to get annoyed with the line of questioning as he turned and walked towards the middle of the clearing to practice his taijutsu. His answer brought Yujito up short. What Jinchuriki didn't want to contact their tenant in an effort to harness their chakra? Well, the blonde Kunoichi decided to find out as she followed her target to the clearing, and just watched him move in a simple pattern, knowing her wouldn't knowingly show his skills to a potential opponent, and a foreign shinobi at that. Why don't you want to harness the power of your Biju? Something like that could be a useful trump card in the future. I will make it in this world relying on my power alone and no one else's. I would only contact the Kyubi in an effort of finding a way to be rid of it. Is that all, Yujito-san? Naruto asked as he continued his simple taijutsu training. Yujito could only nod after hearing his answer, not really trusting her voice. She went to leave the training ground only to decide that it was big enough for both of them to practice, and not have to really look at each other. She went off to the other side of the clearing near the dense tree line was to train. Of course, over the next few hours Yujito would find herself always gazing to where Naruto was working on an exercise in an effort to practice. He never let on that he knew she was watching, but Yujito had a feeling that he did. Nibi as usual was teasing her constantly about this. Taking an interest in Kyubi-sama's container kitten? I approve, in a couple of years he's gonna be a real looker. Nibi purred as Yujito was looking back at Naruto's position as he continued to train. It's not like that, I'm merely observing his habits so I can effectively fight him into the up-and-coming finals. Yujito replied with a soft snort. So when the Tom took off his jacket, your eyes roving over his corded muscles with a glazed look was observing his abilities? Nibi asked as Yujito became silent, which caused Nibi to get a shit-eating grin knowing she had her container. A flustered shut up reached Nibi, who laughed at her container's expense as the poor girl gained a blush that thankfully no one else was around to see. Soon enough as the sun began to set, Sesomaru got ready to leave and looked directly at Yujito's training spot. When you leave make sure that no one sees you do. I want to keep this a secret, Naruto said to the girl as she was throwing kunai. Yujito stopped mid-throw to give a reply and turned around to find her fellow blonde already leaving through the cave exit. You are a puzzle I aim to solve, Uzumaki, Yujito thought as she continued to practice a bit more before going back to the hotel. Over the next few days, Naruto continued to help Sakura when he could, knowing full well that this was Kakashi's job in the first place. When he tried to find him the day after he started training, the sensei of Team 10 Sarutobi-sama stopped by to let them know that Kakashi had left on a mission and would be back as soon as possible. This info of course got the young Yukai annoyed. His sensei, if he could even call the silver-haired Jounin that, was out on a mission when he had students that needed his help growing stronger. The blonde genin decided to confront the man the next time he seen him. So imagine Naruto's surprise when he spotted a group of Jounin for the rookie teams, Guy, and a few others heading his way with his sensei at the head of the group. As usual his face was buried in his orange book. Well, he was in for a rude awakening as Naruto stepped in front of the Jounins. Kakashi-sensei, do you have a second? I want to talk with you, the blonde asked loud enough that he got the entire group's attention as they stopped and looked at the orange-wearing genin. I wish I could be. I've got something to do. I wanted to speak with you about your first kill, but these things happen, Kakashi said, glancing out the side of his book to look at his student. The others looked at Kakashi with disbelief as he basically brushed aside one of his genin that was formally asking for his help. As a sensei he had an obligation to his students. Naruto merely narrowed his eyes slightly as he looked at Kakashi. So you won't take a moment to listen? I know what this is about, but I just don't have the time to train you for the finals. However, I've set you up with a substitute sensei to help you in my place, Kakashi said as he returned completely to his book. Let me guess, someone that won't adequately train me properly while you run off to cater to the Uchiha's training? Stop me if I'm wrong, Naruto said, looking dead at his sensei who didn't even have the moral courage to face the person he's turning away directly. Now don't get all worked up like that. Sasuke needs the help considering who he's facing in the finals. You seem to be doing well on your own, especially since your battles in the Forest of Death. Kakashi tried to deflect as the others looked on with increasingly disappointed glances at their fellow Jounin. That's besides the point. What if I wasn't adjusted like I was when I killed that Otonin? Would you have done what you did and brushed me off, or would you have done the sensible thing and talked to me about it? Naruto threw out, making Kakashi give another sideways glance that was from what he could guess was a glare. You're overstepping the chain of command, genin. I will not tolerate being spoken to by one of my own students like that. Like I care, Hataki. Did you know that while you were failing at the main aspect of your position so poorly that I've been helping Harino bring her skills up to snuff? I'm supposed to be using this month to hone my skills for the finals of the Chunin exam, not doing your job, Naruto replied as he ignored the heated glare Kakashi was trying to intimidate him with while leaking killing intent his way. What's wrong? I hit a sore spot. Don't know why you're surprised, Hataki. After all, you're lower than trash, seeing as you can't even follow your own motto. I'd stand here and point out your obvious lackings as an instructor, but I have to go see Hokage-sama. Sesshomaru said as he stepped back and proceeded to walk around the group of jounins. Before he got too far he stopped and called back to Kakashi. One more thing, Hataki, leak any more killing intent at me and I will make you a cyclops permanently, Sesshomaru said as he hit Kakashi directly with a large amount of killing intent laced with a bit of his Yukai chakra to get his point across before disappearing around the corner. Kakashi watched his student walk off with a slow anger rising in his chest at how he was just talked to. He looked to his fellow jounin only to find them either shaking their heads in disappointment or disgust at how he lead his team. You guys don't believe what he said, right? Kakashi asked, trying to save face by appealing to his fellow jounin for support. Unfortunately, they had some negative responses to share with the copying. Kakashi, I'm disappointed in you, my friend. Asuma, you shame yourself too greatly right now. Karina, most unyouthful, my rival. This came from guy who was unusually serious at the moment. I ought to feed you to my snakes, but I don't want them to taste such failure from one such as you. Anko growled as a snake peeked out from her coat sleeve. With their peace, said the other jounins, left Kakashi standing in the street feeling like a real jackass, before he walked off towards his destination. However, one of them noticed a figure sitting on the wall which overlooked the hot springs that Sesshomaru and Kakashi had their confrontation in front of. Not even home 5 minutes and I get a front row seat for 2 great shows at once. Maybe I can see how Gigi is doing. After collecting my research, of course. Ho ho ho, that's it, splash each other with more gusto. Man, I love this place, a voice said in a jovial tone before becoming filled with perverted giggles. That's right, we all know who this is. More of him up ahead. The Hokage's tower. 15 minutes later, Naruto entered the tower with a purpose as he headed for the Hokage's office. As he reached the top floor, he spotted one of the top people on his most hated list, the Hokage's secretary. This bitch made it her life's goal to make his very existence miserable, so it came as no surprise that she had a glare on her face that could rival the Shinigami's. What do you want, boy? The secretary sneered as Naruto reached her desk. It's obviously not to see a miserable hag like you. Naruto threw back as he walked past the woman. Where do you think you're going, demo? The secretary started to yell in a red haze of anger only to stop as she felt the cold chill of a kunai next to her neck. Finish that sentence, and it will be the last you ever do. I don't know why the Aji-san, old man, lets this carry on in the worst way. If it were up to me, you'd all have been hanging a long time ago. Naruto warned while watching as the woman nearly had a heart attack right there on the spot. When she didn't say another word, he let up, knowing that killing this ninja isn't what he came here for. Leaving the terrified secretary at her desk, the blonde continued on to the Hokage's office. Not even sparing a glance at the 2 umbu guarding the door, he knocked twice and walked in after hearing an enter. Naturally, the Hokage found himself swimming in paperwork, as he struggled to not be consumed by the great beast. Ah, Naruto-kun, what can I do for you today? Sarutobi asked with a kind smile as he noticed it was his surrogate grandson that came to see him. I need to speak with you about something important, Naruto said as he walked towards the desk at a leisure pace. Certainly, why don't you tell me all about it? Sarutobi said, sitting up straighter, knowing that whatever Naruto had to say was important, especially with his change as of late. It's something for your ears alone, Naruto replied as he pulled a chair in front of the desk, indicating the umbu stationed in the room. Sarutobi motioned to the 4 umbu that they were to disperse from the room. However, 1 umbu leapt from their position and came to rest in a kneeling position in front of the village leader. Naruto took a side glance at this masked shinobi. From what he could see, the build was obviously of a male that wore the standard attire of the umbu. That is where the similarities ended, as he took into the immaculate black cloak that hid majority of his features, including the color of his hair. On his face was the pale white mask of what appeared to be a dragon. By your leave, Hokage-sama, the masked nin said with a bow before fading out of the room. Of course, Ryu, Sarutobi says with a kind smile after watched the effective display by one of his shinobi, as he lifted his hands and was about to do seals for a jutsu when Naruto spoke up. Before you activate that jutsu, tell the idiot outside the window to reveal himself, then you can send him away. Instead of answering, Sarutobi decided to sit in silence as he knew who was sitting outside his window. It was one of his students. He wanted to see how he would react to such a comment. Luckily, he didn't have long to wait as smoke filled the room behind the sitting blonde. Idiot? Sensei, you should enlighten this kid that he stands in the presence of the great, powerful lady killer, the Densetsu-gama Sannin no Jiraiya, legendary Toad Sage Jiraiya. The voice said, identifying itself as Jiraiya. Naruto turned around to look at the male whose scent he noticed from the moment he started to tear into Hataki near the hot springs. Jiraiya was dressed in brown shinobi pants with a green net shirt covered by a red vest and wooden getter rather than sandals, his white hair as long, spiky and hung low against a large scroll strapped to his back. He wore a large headband with small horns on the side with a kanji in the middle that said oil instead of the leaf insignia. He had 2 vertical red stripes running down both his cheeks. All this was topped off by an extremely dramatic pose complete with him standing on top of a gama. Look, Naruto, I know you wanted this to be just between us, but if there is one person I can trust not to say anything, it's Jiraiya over there. Will you let him in on your secret as well? If it makes you feel better, he knows of the QB in your belly, as he was the one to help the yondaime complete the array for the seal, Sarutobi said in an effort to ease the blonde's mind as he activated the security seals for the entire office, making this the most secure place in all the village at the moment. Very well, Aji-san, Naruto said after a small period of silence. With that out the way, Naruto dropped the henge he cast in the forest as he told of his run-in with the disguised Orochimaru. Jiraiya stopped the story at this point to reveal his ex-teammate to Naruto, and how something was done to the seal causing his connection to the Kyuubi's chakra to halt. Then he told the Gamma Sennin and the Venerable Hokage about his meeting of his ancestor, and the awakening of his demonic heritage as an Uzumaki. Needless to say, both men soon found they needed sake to help digest all that they learned until we came to the current moment. Let me see if I understand. Your ancestor appeared before you while you lay unconscious in the forest of death? Sarutobi asked as he had just lit his pipe while listening to the end of Naruto's tale. That's pretty much the gist of what I've told you, Naruto said, looking at his commanding officer. Well, if you're truly adamant about making the world know your strength, then I say be a maelstrom of change like I've seen from you so far, Sarutobi said, knowing his surrogate grandson was turning over his words in his head. You make a valid point, Aji-san. If I'm to be recognized, then I will do so with my own hand. However, I want you to add the name of Inu Taisho to my file, Naruto said as he looked at Sarutobi with a slight change in expression as he gave Sarutobi a very small smile, letting the old man know that he still was important to Naruto. Done, and if you will, allow an old man to correct another foolish error on his end, Sarutobi said, getting up and walking over to one of the few pictures in his office of the 3 previous Hokages and his own picture. Stepping up to the picture of the Yondaime, Sarutobi waved a chakra-infused hand over the photo, causing 2 small scrolls to fall into his waiting hands. He then handed them to Naruto before returning to his seat. Before you open those scrolls, know that they will answer the question you asked me all those years ago regarding your parents, Sarutobi said solemnly as he sat back to wait for the inevitable blow-up. Naruto opened the first of the 2 scrolls without hesitation to find it addressed to him from the Yondaime Hokage. Namake's Minato aka Konoha no Kuroi Senku, Yellow Flash of Konoha. To my most cherished son Naruto. As Naruto sat there reading the scrolls, Sarutobi looked to his face for any signs of resentment or anger towards the man now revealed to be his father. Instead, he saw a mostly stone face that didn't register anything, only to take a side glance at Jiraiya, who began to squirm under the blonde's gaze as the boy found out that Jiraiya was to be his designated Kofu, godfather, through the letter. After that one, he opened the second one to find the name of his mother, Uzumaki Kushina, also known as Konoha no Shinkyo, Crimson Death of Konoha. Once he was finished and put both letters down, he merely looked at the Hokage for confirmation. Is what's in this letter true? Naruto asked with a tone of indifference. Yes, it is, and I would understand if you are upset with your father. Sarutobi started, only to be interrupted by the blonde. Why would I be mad? He did what he had to, as is expected of a leader. However, his method leaves me questioning his competency as a parent, Naruto said while rolling up the 2 scrolls. Of course this didn't sit well with Jiraiya. How could you say that his actions are what saved this village? Besides, it's not like he had another choice. The Kyuubi would have destroyed us all, Jiraiya said, looking at his godson with anger rising in his eyes. His actions are also what condemned his entire family to ruin. However, I care not what my Two-san's choices were. From what my Ka-san wrote in hers, I was going to become the Jinchuriki regardless. So your anger is unneeded. If you want, I could yell at you for not doing your job if you'd like, Kofu? Naruto said, pointing out that he knew about Jiraiya's position in his life. Naruto, listen, I know that, Jiraiya said, realizing what Naruto was talking about, and tried to justify his actions only to be stopped by his godson. Save your apologies, they aren't needed. What's done is done. Besides, I survived alone, as you can see. Now then, it's been a long afternoon. I want the keys to my family home, Hokage-sama, Naruto said with maturity, as he made Jiraiya realize that he didn't need to waste time arguing about what can't be taken back anyway. They are in the scroll left by your father. Are you going to reveal your heritage just yet to Konoha? Sarutobi replied, seeing Naruto take this all in stride. Not just yet, save that for the day of the Chunin exam finals. I want to train in peace before the damned council tries sticking their nose where it doesn't belong. Speaking of the council, it's time you shaped up, old man, Naruto said, looking dead at the old Hokage with 2 shards of sapphire that seemed to pierce Sarutobi to the core. I'm not following, Sarutobi replied as he tried to follow what his surrogate grandson was getting at. Are you not the Hokage? The man that was chosen to protect and lead Konoha and all her citizens, including the council? It's time they and you realize that this village is a dictatorship with you at its helm, not a democracy that entitles them to undermine your authority. You are to answer to none in this entire country save for the daimyo himself. Be a real man, Sarutobi, Naruto said as he got to his feet and leaned over the desk to look Sarutobi directly in the eyes while flaring his yukai to get his point across. Stepping back, both Naruto and Jiraiya watched Sarutobi have an epiphany about how he's been running this village ever since he took office again after Minato's death. They caught the fire in his eyes go from a flicker to a full-on blaze as he sat up straighter at remembering that his was the de facto boss inside these walls, and what he said goes. For too long have I let this beautiful village decline into the cesspool that it's become. My senseis must be rolling in their graves at their hard work and dreams being tarnished. It's time everyone learned just why they chose me to be the Hokage of this village. Thank you, Naruto, for rekindling the fire in this old man. Things will be different in the future. If there is anything I can do for you, let me know, Sarutobi said with a newfound sense of purpose as he undid the security seals. No problem, I'll just hold on to that favor until I need it down the road. Oyasumi-nasai, good night, to both of you. One more thing, until these exams are over I would stick close to Hokage Jiraiya. From what you've told me, then something might happen between now and the end of the exams with Orochimaru, who definitely has plans for Konoha. Naruto replied before he turned around and walked out the office carrying his parents' scrolls, leaving Sarutobi and his student behind. Sensei, just what kind of person has my godson become? Jiraiya said with a look of pure shock on his face. Someone destined for great things, Jiraiya. Sarutobi replied with a genuine smile as he leaned back in his chair smoking his pipe while enjoying the silence. Of course, before Jiraiya shattered it with a giggle so perverted that women all over the village were up in arms to search out the pervert and beat them within an inch of their lives, while the males shivered or silently weep in fear of the mob of vengeful estrogen sweeping throughout the village. What is so funny, Jiraiya? Sarutobi asked, looking to his longtime student as he puffed out his chest with a proud gleam in his eyes. Since Naruto has unlocked his Uzumaki bloodline, meaning that he falls under the Ciara, which means he's going to get a harem of bodacious honeys to help revive both his clans, Jiraiya said with a running nosebleed at the lucky future his godson is going to get. You think I could take that boy on as an apprentice? This of course caused Sarutobi to burst out laughing at his student's expense as he swiveled his chair around to look at the sun setting over the village wall. That's for your nephew to decide, Jiraiya, but whatever happens from this point on will be a sight to see. I hope I'm around to see it with my own eyes, Sarutobi mused quietly as he watched the sun give way to night with a smile on his face. What if Naruto has god-level power in Inuyasha? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.